Yes. Welcome, everyone, to the monthly meeting of the Knox County Planning Commission. I am Tim Hill, Chair of the Planning Commission, and I'll be conducting today's meeting. Assisting me today is the Executive Director of Knox County Planning, Amy Brooks, and the Planning Commission Attorney, Tasha Blakeney. I would like to call this meeting to order. I'll now ask Mr. DeArmond to call the roll.
Commissioner Uten, Commissioner Boyer, Commissioner Huber. Here. Commissioner Shelso. Here. Commissioner Perez.
Here.
Commissioner Browning.
Here.
Commissioner Higgins.
Here.
Commissioner Levinson. Here. Commissioner Biggs.
Here.
Commissioner Barker. Commissioner Adams.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Midas. Commissioner Overton.
Here.
Commissioner Hill.
Here.
That's 11 present, sir.
Thank you, Mr. DeArmond. Participating today are planning commissioners as well as planning staff and various representatives of city and county agencies. The planning commissioners are citizens from the city and county who have been appointed by either the city mayor or the county mayor. We receive no salary and volunteer our time as a service to the community. Now a word about how discussion will take place. After each item is called, I'll read the staff's recommendation. On certain items, I'll call on staff to comment. At this time, the applicant may address the commission or defer his or her opening remarks and allow any opposition to speak first. The applicant and those in support of the applicant will be given a total of 5 minutes to speak. I'll then ask for other comments from the floor. The opposition will also be given a total of 5 minutes to speak. If either side wishes to have an opportunity for rebuttal, you'll need to reserve time from your allotted 5 minutes. Applicants and citizens who registered to participate and are attending the meeting in person will be asked to come to the podium and share their name and address for the record, where their item is heard. Those who have registered to speak online do not need to sign in at the podium. If you'd like to speak on an agenda item and have not registered to do so in advance, please raise your hand when the item is read into the record. I'll then indicate when it's time for you to speak, and you can approach the podium at that time. You'll be asked to sign in at the podium as well as state your name and address for the record. If the Planning Commission decision on that item is appealed and we need to notify you, we cannot do so without your name and address. The Planning Commission may grant additional time for presentation of information. Speakers should limit their remarks to the facts of the case and avoid repeating comments that have been previously presented to the Planning Commission. Because of the number of items we have before us, groups in favor or opposed to an item have been asked to appoint a spokesperson to represent them. If you have any items that you'd like to make a part of the record, please submit those documents to knoxplanning.org or just ask one of the staff folks that's up here with us. Please identify the file number and meeting date in your submittal. I hope all of you have reviewed the agenda package from Planning's website. In addition to the agenda, there's information on the website related to how today's meeting will be conducted, as well as correspondence on individual cases. Many of the items that we vote on require further action by City Council or County Commission. For matters that are forwarded to City Council for action, the applicant or their representative should be present at the meeting at which the request will be considered. For matters forwarded to County Commission for final action, particularly rezoning requests, the applicant or their representative must, and I repeat, must be present at the meeting at which the request will be considered, or the case at minimum will be postponed. Applicants will be notified of the meeting date. If you have any questions regarding the meeting date or process, just please ask planning staff. Today's meeting will be conducted in order of the agenda. Please stand as you are able, and I will conduct the invocation and lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, bless this community. Help to ensure the decisions made this afternoon are fair, legal, and in the best interests of the total community. As always, keep us mindful of the needs of others, especially those that are in sorrow, need, sickness, or any other adversity. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda are the postponement and withdrawal lists, and I'll read these separately. Under automatic postponements until March 7th, 2024, we have item 24, Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works. Item 30, Benjamin C. Mullins. Item 17, under automatic withdrawals, we have Selena Cable. Item 45, final plat of Hunter's Glen Phase 2. Those do not need to be acted upon. Items to be voted on under our 30-day postponements. Do we have any recusals on the 30-day postponements? If not, we have item 14, Katie Wozik, Batson Himes, Norvell and Poe. Item 22, final plat of the Highlands at Clear Spring, Unit 3. Item 31, Millstone Ventures LLC. Item 35, Masana Investments. Item 37, Lantern Park. Item 42, Ben C. Mullins. Are there any other requests to postpone?
Chairman Hill, can you repeat the first item?
The first item is item 14, Katie Wozek, Batson, Himes, Norvell, and Poe. Any other requests for postponements? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to postpone items as read for 30 days until March 7th.
So
Motion
moved.
to propose.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Adams, seconded by Commissioner Perez. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have no withdrawals, no tablings, and no items to be removed from the table. Next on the agenda is the consent list, which is composed of items marked with a C. These items are considered non-controversial and are voted on all at once in order to save time. Items are listed in the order they appear on the agenda. Please listen carefully. Once an item is approved as part of the consent list, there will be no further discussion on it. And I want to say that twice because I've seen folks sit through the whole meeting before not realizing that their item was on consent. So once an item is approved as part of the consent list, there will be no further discussion on it. Item 2, approval of February 8, 2024 agenda. Item 3, approval of January 11, 2024 minutes. Item 5, City of Knoxville. Item 6, City of Knoxville. Item 7, City of Knoxville. Item 8, City of Knoxville. Item 9, Belvin Properties, LLC. Item 11, David Varner. Item 12, Michael Williams. Item 13, Angela Wilson. Item 15, Josh Braden. Item 16, Jose Martinez, revised. Item 18, Joshua D. Wright. Item 19, Deborah W. Rossi. Item 20, Knoxville First Church of God. Item 25, Daniel Levy. Item 32, Wallace McClure. Item 33, Ralph Smith Professional Land Systems. Item 36, Bodazat Property, Millertown Pike. Item 38, Jenkins Builders, Old Clinton Pike. Item 43, Shining Star Properties, LLC. Item 44, Upland South Construction. Item 46, Knoxville, Knox County Planning. Are there any other requests to remove an item from the consent list? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to approve consent items as read. We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Perez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. First item on the agenda is item number 10. This will require 3 motions. The applicant is Taylor D. Forrester. Location is north side of Delrose Drive, south side of Brooks Avenue, west of Riverside Road. Approximate size of the tract is 29.71 acres. Present plan and zoning designation is low-density residential, hillside protection, RN1, hillside protection. Proposed plan designation is hillside protection, medium-density residential office. Existing land use, agriculture, forestry, and vacant land. Staff recommendation on the first motion would be approve medium-density residential land use classification because it is consistent with changing conditions in the area, and the hillside protection would be retained. The second staff recommendation is approve the medium-density residential land use classification because it is consistent with the changing conditions in the area, and hillside protection would be retained, and that would be related to the one-year plan. The third motion related to rezoning would be, staff recommendation is approve the RN4 General Residential Neighborhood District because it is consistent with changing conditions in the area and is more compatible with surrounding development. Hillside protection overlay would be retained. Is the applicant present?
Present.
Do we have any opposition? Any opposition? We do? Okay, is Ms. Buffalo here? All right, would you like to speak? Okay, would you want to proceed or defer?
I'd like to proceed.
Okay, please do.
Taylor Forrester, 1111 North Shore Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919. Here on behalf of the property owner on these 3 requests. Initially, when we filed these requests for the sector plan and one-year plan amendment, we were seeking MDRO, medium density residential office, and a rezoning to the RN6 zone. After receiving staff report and recommendation and having discussions with staff, we found that their report and the recommendations were reasonable and agreed to amend our request for the sector plan and the one-year plan just to the medium density residential as well as the rezoning to the lesser zoning of RN4. As noted, this area, the East County, East City Sector Plan area has seen a significant change over the past few years and significant increase in residential development and kind of intensity or desire to develop residential developments here. This is supported by the fact of the recent groundbreaking of the multifamily development that's in close proximity to the site of the Riverside at Holston. That development, again, a recent groundbreaking, and it's adjacent to an existing multifamily development. This area offers, as support for these amendments and rezonings, are the community assets that are present in the area. This includes the East Knox County Greenway Trail, which is scheduled to be extended. There's also the Knoxville Botanical Gardens. The Greenway Trail will be extended to the east to connect with the Knoxville Botanical Gardens. There's also the Williams Creek Golf Course, also known as the Wee Course, which is adjacent to the property. In addition, there's the Sarah Moore Green Magnet Elementary School, as well as a CAT bus terminal at that school location. And from the property to that bus terminal, it's served by sidewalks. Again, all these making this property in this area prime for development and attractive for development. The RN4 zoning designation, it balances the need for available housing, not only in Knoxville, Knox County, but in this area. It will assist, rezoning the property RN4 will assist in meeting that unmet demand for housing, but also the RN4, based on the type of housing that's allowed there, will also create the opportunity to meet the unmet demand of the variety of housing that we're missing right now in Knoxville. So we ask that you approve the sector plan amendment to medium density residential, the 1-year plan amendment to medium density residential, and rezone the property recommendation to RN4 and follow staff's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Ms.
But
Buffalo? would-
I'd say one more thing, sorry. I've been in communication with Al Gibbs. He lives in close proximity to the property. He's got several properties there. We've had a good conversation. He's also involved with the Williams Creek Golf Course. He's on the board there and oversees the youth development program. So Mr. Gibb and I have had a great discussion and talking about the future of this proposed development and keeping the lines of communication open. I know he is in discussions with several property owners in that area and seeing a way to work together and offer some benefit for this community. And appreciate him reaching out. And again, that was a great conversation. We'll keep that line of communication open. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Buffalo, if you'd state your name and address, please, when you approach the podium.
My name is Karina Buffalo, and I have lived at 2701 Delrose Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, since 2002. And I will probably have to just throw this away because I did not know until 5 minutes before we started that there had been some changes to the proposed rezoning. So I want to thank Commission. I personally am thrilled about RN4.
Ms. Buffalo, if you, pardon the interruption, could you pull that microphone a little closer to you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can
Yes.
hear some rumblings in the audience there that can't hear.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I want to thank Commission for the proposed zoning of RN4. I feel like there is a drought in Knoxville for like triplexes, duplexes. And I think it would be awesome to have that and maybe some assisted living facilities for the aging part of East Knoxville. And I feel like that could all be kind of balanced in something over that way. So I'm really kind of thrilled, so thank you all very much for that. I had submitted online a photo of my front yard with a lot of water in it because there is an extensive amount of runoff from 2805. And I didn't even realize how high that is until we got the snow that stayed and I could see the elevation and I'm like, okay, that's why that water runs into my yard and fills it up. So I would like for you guys or engineering or whoever does to, if you can, please address that because I did not realize it is also occurring across the street behind the houses on that side. You just don't see it because it runs behind. It also runs further down and floods yards that are covered with trees. And I cannot imagine with the amount of paving that this would cause where all that water would go that lands on 2805. So if you all would just consider that and contact me. The only other thing that I can say is I walked the neighborhood. I asked as many neighbors as I could find home as soon as I knew that this was a deal, what their concern was, and they said crime. And I think that is largely due to packing a whole bunch of people who don't know each other into a small area. And I think you've addressed that with RN4. So then again, I thank you all very much, but I do ask that you help us with our stormwater situation before any paving is done, if you all can help me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Commission? Commissioner Shelso.
So what would be the stormwater analysis step? or when would that be analyzed in a large development like this?
Our colleagues in engineering might want to weigh in, city engineering, but when they submit for their development plan review for the permitting process, in the permitting process.
They calculate it all then? Okay. I think that should, yeah.
Sorry about that. Joshua Fraze, City Engineering. Typically, when a site like this is developed, they'll have to make sure that the runoff from the site after the development is no greater than what it is currently. They'll also have to study the downstream receiving system to make sure it's adequate. If not, then oftentimes we'll either ask them to improve or maintain that system or provide some additional mitigation on site to offset, help correct that. If they make any improvements to the streets, they have to meet our stormwater ordinance and prevent flooding from, at a minimum, a 25-year storm, but that depends on the classification of the road.
Thank you.
Yeah, and additionally, I think the RN4 fits kind of where this is, considering it's adjacent to some RN1, and we did some numbers at agenda review on the potential impact of units, so I think this is reasonable.
All right, Commissioner Higgins.
I agree with Commissioner Shelso, and with that, I'd like to make a motion. So I know that this has 3 motions, so bear with me. I'll start with make a motion to change the East City Sector Plan from LDR to MDR-O and Hillside Protection HP.
Second.
I'm sorry? Oh, just MDR. Just MDR. No O.
Corrected second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Higgins, seconded by Commissioner Adams to approve the sector plan per staff recommendation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Make a motion to change the 1-year plan from LDR and HP to MDR and HP.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Higgins, seconded by Commissioner Adams to, related to the 1-year plan, approve the MDR land use classification per staff recommendation. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
And make a motion to rezone from RN1 and HP to RN4 and HP per staff's recommendation.
We have a motion by Commissioner Higgins, seconded by Commissioner Adams to approve the RN4 per staff recommendation. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On to agenda item number 21. The applicant is Maple Lane Homes LLC, location north side of Westridge Drive, west of Greg Ruth Way. Approximate size of the tract, 19,345 square feet. Zoning RN1, existing land use, agricultural, forestry, vacant land, proposed use, 2-family dwelling. Staff recommendation is to approve the request for a 2-family dwelling in the RN1, subject to the noted 3 conditions. Is the applicant present? Do we have opposition? Okay, so would you like to proceed or defer? Counselor?
I'll proceed.
Okay.
Taylor Forrester, 1111 North Shore Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919. Here on behalf of the applicant, property owner Maple Lane Homes. As many of you may recall, we were here in November on a sector plan amendment and one-year plan amendment, which resulted in a down, I guess, an amendment downwards from what had previously been there. This parcel was carved off from the church there to the north, and then acquired by my client. So what we're here asking today is for a special use improvement for a two-family dwelling unit to be developed. Two-family dwelling units are permitted in the RN1 zone, subject to the approval of Planning Commission of a special use request. Included in the application and in your packet is the site plan for the development, the elevations and the renderings. The site plan designates the location of the dwelling unit development. It's in line with the other residents that are on that street as far as kind of the setbacks, and everything kind of aligns there to where it mimics what's already been developed on West Ridge. The dwelling units will consist of be each two-story units. There'll be 3 bedroom units, 2.5 baths. They'll have parking, a garage for each unit. Access will be from West Ridge Drive. Have patio deck on the back of them. These units will be perfect for people with families looking for housing in the area. This area is close proximity to West Hills Elementary School. There are several parks, several other community assets, churches, and in close proximity to the I-40 interchange there at West Hills, Kingston Pike, the commercial corridor there, as well as Middlebrook Pike. The one-year plan, and that's one of the basis for staff support of this, it provides that two-family dwellings may be permitted in low-density residential areas like this area, where other development will not significantly affect the service demands or aesthetics of the area. Now, this is just one lot, 2 dwelling units, and it's a sizable lot. It's close to 20,000 square feet. The development of this two-family dwelling is not going to impact the services in this area. It's not going to be a detriment or to the aesthetics or devalue the area. It's new construction, and the renderings, it's a very good-looking dwelling unit. The opposition, there's been some comments on the Planning Commission website related to this request, and those comments center around they don't want a two-family dwelling unit or a duplex, and that's period. There's no real basis or justification. It's just conclusory statements that aren't supported by any kind of factual statements, factual averments of any sort to deny this. This area is a popular area. This area doesn't have a ton of new construction, which we'd submit that new construction in this area is a good thing, brings up property values. This street, the interesting thing about this street is less than 450 feet away to the west, there's already an existing single-family house on a lot that has a duplex as well. So you have 3 units on this one lot that's approximately 450 feet to the west, and then immediately adjacent to us on the east, although not a duplex or two-family dwelling unit, you can see there's a single-family house, and then whether it's a guest house, a mother-in-law suite of some sort, but it is a different registered addressed house. So, this request for this two-family dwelling unit's in character with the community. It's in character with the immediate street. Isn't going to be an impact. It's in harmony with the area, and will be a benefit, not a detriment to the area. We'd ask that you follow staff's recommendation and approve the special use request for a two-family dwelling on the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Matt Davis is on our list in opposition, like to speak?
Good afternoon. Matt Davis, 7405 West Ridge Drive. I'm going to do my best to stick to my script here so I can move through it pretty good. So I'm here today as a resident of West Ridge to dissuade the Planning Commission from approving this request to build a duplex or a two-family dwelling on this site in question here. So my personal reason for opposing this request is because I feel strongly that this development goes against the character of the neighborhood. There's a lot of old houses. New construction does not fit that aesthetic, as he was mentioning. The appeal of West Hills for my family when we moved here was that of community and establishing roots. We can foresee ourselves being in our home for the rest of our lives. And to me, a duplex or a two-family dwelling does not fit that. It does not embody that spirit, especially not in this neighborhood. And of course, if you talk to all the neighbors, you'll get different reasons why each one has their strong feeling in opposition, but it is a unified front that we all oppose this. So earlier this week, a petition was submitted to the commission that we just decided we would go out and perform just to demonstrate the voice of the neighborhood. The support was resounding. We gained 67 signatures, 41 of which are on West Ridge Drive alone. That's so much more of a louder voice than I could convey to you. While I was sitting back here, I counted there's roughly about 80 people in this room. And I guess you guys could imagine if I brought 67 other people down here to fill up this auditorium, how much of a presence that would be. There's also an issue I want to mention. It's an issue of misrepresentation on behalf of Maple Lane Homes. This special use report and the letter that Taylor D. Forster had submitted to the commission. So they've been citing this duplex or a two-family dwelling that is at 7439 West Ridge Drive. They've been citing it as Exhibit A. This is not a duplex. It is not a two-family dwelling. There's two separate structures, two separate addresses. There's one tenant in each location. And this was all confirmed to me when the owner of the property signed our petition opposing this duplex. So the misrepresentation is nobody's doing their due diligence to confirm that there's truly something already present on the street when it's not there. They are trying any means necessary to get this approved, and this is not in line with the character of our neighbors. This duplex is not in line with the character of our neighborhood. Let me just state that we gladly welcome a single-family residence, a home being built at this location. This development is not an investment in our community. This is solely for monetary means. I'm asking this commission to not let this plea fall on deaf ears. I'm asking you to deny this request. 67 signatures, local, and then we have the support of the West Hills Community Association as well. And I have this petition in case it did not go through to the commission. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Let's see, next to speak would be Dale Brotherton.
I live across the street. I've lived there for 45 years. My name's Dale Brotherton, and this kind of makes me angry. I have a degree in architecture, and this house across the street that they're proposing, have you all looked at it? I mean, have you looked at the actual elevation?
No.
It's looks like something the Jetsons would live in. It's got these, roofs that come up like this. They call them scallion roofs in his report. And he uses a house down the street. He said there's 3 on one lot. Well, there's only 2 on one lot. But in the other house that's in the back, it used to be a barn. Actually, these 2 original houses that he's talking about were the original houses in before Bonalsdale Gardens, I think. But Bonalsdale Gardens is actually what this is before there was West Hills, back in 40s, early 50s. And they're a little cottage style house, and you actually have the dimensions somewhere. The little one he's talking about, he thinks it's a duplex. The reason he thinks it's a duplex because it has a little upstairs. It was originally a 1-car garage. It's 19 by 20 feet. And it has the roof, they built it up with a little 4-foot wall and then a roof over, so it have like a little sleeping loft upstairs. Has a deck, a door, he just, for some reason they assumed that's a duplex. Well, it's not a duplex. And then there's the other little barn in the back that have like a shed roof on it that they changed into a residence. That's what he's using as an example of the style that they're trying to make look like the rest of the neighborhood. It couldn't be any different than the rest of the neighborhood. And it's really kind of aggravating that they want to build this thing. It doesn't look anything at all like the neighborhood. I'm sure a lot of you guys know what West Hills looks like. It's mostly ranchers. And on that side of the road, I got to hurry, I guess, because you guys don't give me much time. But a lot of it, in his letters from the lawyer and all that, they talk about it's a large lot and all this, and it says here in the second section, it's supposed to be a development of single-family homes, relatively large lots with generous setbacks. Well, all the lots on that side of the street, they kind of vary because there's originally were 2-acre lots, but they've all been subdivided except for 3. But we still have, I think, 3, 4 over an acre, some of them over 2 acres. But, you average all the lots out on that street and it comes to 127 foot per lot for the frontage. Well, this lot that they're trying to build, this 60-foot condo or duplex on, is 80 foot. And it barely meets the requirement for the square footage for a 2-story building. The building that they're proposing for that, the way they're citing it is they raised it up because there's water. You see that road coming down from the development across the street where there's 4 houses? Well, the water comes down that road, crosses over this lot. It's got a little swell in it. Well, they built it up. They're going to build it up and they have the garages in the front. So they're going to try to keep the water from running down that hill into the garages. But they're going to build it up, which is going to make it a lot different than all the other lots, because all the other lots on that side, which, they didn't change the grade. They just built the basement ranchers, and there's a couple of split foyers. So they're building theirs up. So it's going to set it up on this little pedestal. And then it's 2 stories where everything else is just 1 story, with the basement. And so it's going to be another 10 feet higher. And another deceptive thing they did, and they look like these drawings that they submitted were like from, they just took a.
Mr. Brotherton, if you could wrap up, I'd appreciate it. I've already overextended the opposition's time.
Well, they don't show the foundation, and it's going to be like 8 or 9 foot high in the back, because the lot slopes quite a bit. And from the road to the back of this building, there's like a 9-foot differential. And they don't show any of that in their drawings. So, and the height will be 35 feet, which is the limit on how much, in other words, they're just building too big a building on too small of a lot. I just think it's insane myself. And I actually have some expertise. So you guys can either, go with the developer, you can go with the people who live there in the neighborhood. I mean, it's up to you, I guess, but
Thank you for your comments,
I did a lot
Mr.
of
Brother.
walking around the neighborhood, and everybody signed in the neighborhood except for one person who said he couldn't sign because of his job. And everybody was enthusiastic about signing it, and nobody wants it.
Thank you. I think you have effectively communicated your case. Let's see, Mr. Yes, sir. That's okay. Is Mr. Hume available? Is Mr. Lee Hume here? I don't see Mr. Hume. Okay, so that's all. Mr. Forrester, if you need a couple extra minutes, you're welcome to it. I've overextended the time here while I was focused on other matters, so. Okay. All right. All right, then we'll take it to commission here. Commissioner Higgins.
Thank you. I understand the concerns of how much this may or may not fit in with the neighborhood, but I think it is appropriate here, especially with the surrounding context of there being a school, a church right up against it, this being so close to the interstate and a lot of different services. So higher density in areas like this make more sense. And this is by no means high density. And really, a duplex is just two single-family homes that are closer together than what you would normally have. So I think that it is appropriate here. I think it meets the criteria for use on review, and I think that it fits, and I think staff has it right. So I'll make a motion to approve per staff's recommendation.
All right, we have a motion to approve per staff recommendation by Commissioner Higgins, seconded by Commissioner Perez, and we still have some more discussion to go here, so let's go with Commissioner Scelso.
I was just going to add that, I mean, when you look at the footprint of the building, it's not that out of line with the rest of the neighborhood. If the exact same footprint of this building was only one unit, it wouldn't be that different than any other building, the footprint. So I think the scale of it works. I mean, there's nothing about a traditionally single-family residential neighborhood that makes duplexes not fit. I mean, duplexes are low density. So I don't really agree with the argument that because there aren't many, there shouldn't be any, because there are low density. So I think this one works.
Thank you. Commissioner Huber.
Yeah, I would echo all the sentiments. I mean, I think it's a good fit. Now, I also commend West Hills and the folks over there. I mean, I know it's a tremendous amount of work getting 60 signatures and walking and talking through that with everybody. And there's always differing opinions, but this isn't like the missing middle situation, that got passed recently, for inside the 640 loop. It's just an infill. But I would agree with Commissioner Higgins. I mean, you're just a few hundred feet away from Van Osdale, in which there's a school. I mean, you got West Hill School within walking distance. There's sidewalks up and down through there. Then you get into Bearden Middle. There's a lot of reasons that it would be appropriate. So I will be supporting it.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams.
I agree with everything. Commissioner Huber just mentioned missing middle, and you're right, it's not the same thing. However, if there was a missing middle policy out in this area, it would have design guidelines that would make it even stricter in terms of how this type of use would conform to that area. So that's just something to, for kind of the back burner. I especially appreciate Commissioner Celso's comment about the footprint. It's two homes, they're closer together, but the footprint is exactly the same as you would have in a single family. And that helped me, because one thing I was getting hung up on from looking at the elevation was the height. And, would the height make this structure seem different than the others around it, like a sore thumb sort of scenario? Forget style, because that anyone can move in and build what they wish in their own style. But that is the point. Like, this could be any single family dwelling and it could have that height and we wouldn't be here talking about it. So for those reasons, in addition to the other things said, I'm in favor of it.
All right, so we have seeing no other lights, we have a motion and a second to approve per staff recommendation. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is agenda item number 23, the applicant, Knoxville, Knox County Planning. This is a requested street name change from Old Tazewell Pike to Memory Hill Lane, location between Murphy Road and a point 70 feet north of the southeast corner of parcel 039257. Applicant's reason for change: part of Old Tazewell Pike was closed, which caused the right-of-way to be disconnected. Having non-contiguous road segments with the street name is a safety concern for the Knox County Emergency Communications District. The enclosed map highlights this disconnection and shows the section of Old Tazewell Pike to be renamed in Exhibit C. Staff recommendation is to approve the name change from Old Tazewell Pike to Memory Hill Lane as requested by Addressing Department of Knoxville, Knox County Planning. And do we have an applicant? Okay. Okay. All right. Go ahead. You want to? Okay. Okay. All right. Is Mr. Murphy here? Thank you, Mr. Murphy. You may speak.
Thank you, Chairman Hill. Kevin Murphy, 4508 Murphy Road. The residents, I guess there was a voting process that went on, so they did pull the residents along here. I did send in a letter, though, and provide some information to staff prior to this to give you some of the context of the section of Old Tazewell Pike. The area has been known as Corinth for since about the 1870s. There was a old chapel on a 90-degree bend of Luttrell Road on the backside of the Murphy farm that was Murphy Chapel Methodist Church. And after the Civil War, there was a congregational split that actually occurred. And some of the congregation formed a second Methodist church, which is still standing. That's what's now Comforter Church on Old Tazewell Pike. The reason I wrote in is I do think it's important when we're considering name changes to have some of the historical context of the area. Memory Hill Lane, I don't know where that comes from personally, but there had, if there was a name considered that had Corinth in it, that would be, that would at least provide some recognition of the historical community that lived there of Corinth and of Corinth Methodist Church, which was founded in the 1870s. So I just want to let you know that before you consider this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Ms. Cupter, would you like to comment on this?
Certainly. Staff did reach out to the residents abutting the area of the right-of-way closure to be renamed. And we sent 3 different rounds of letters asking for input, and Corinth Church was on each of those 3 letters. So we did take the suggestion that Mr. Murphy had provided at the start of this process. Upon the 3rd round of voting, however, the name Memory Hill was selected as the majority vote by the property owners, and so that was the name that staff used for the application for the name change.
All right. What's that? Okay. Commissioner Smith.
And again, I think just sometimes you have to have some levity in these meetings. Having grown up in that area and traveled that, I used to use Old Tazewell Pike just to get around the red light going to school. So I wish we could just find a way to call it, Antique Tazewell Pike, really old Tazewell Pike. Just don't lose the Tazewell Pike because, again, as Mr. Murphy said, it just got historical context. Memory Hill Lane sounds like we're heading towards an old person's home. So just
What's wrong
my
with
2
old people?
cents for what it's worth there.
What's wrong with old people?
I didn't say old people. I said a old folks home. Memory Hill
What's wrong with an
Lands.
old folks' home?
Nothing's wrong with an old folks home. It's just they usually, those types of homes are very forgetful. And I don't want people to forget of what's going on in the community there and our history. So listen here, you're going to sit there and debate me. We'll go round and round there, Senior Hill. But again, I don't know if it's taking, I understand that they polled the people immediately around it. I don't know if it took the greater context of the entire area. Again, I live right off of Murphy Road in that area. So having driven that, I just hate to see Old Tazewell Pike just become a little nub of what's left of what used to be that stretch of road. So I don't care either way what the commission decides. I just don't necessarily like Memory Hill Lane.
Commissioner Higgins.
Question for staff about, I was looking at the map and where this is, well, I'll actually go back to the other one. There at the top, it stops, and then it seems like this road continues with maybe the same name. What's happening? Is that just drawn strange, or will there be a point on this piece that turns back to Old Tazewell Pike?
Yes, Old Tazewell Pike remains north of, I think it's Luttrell is the northern portion. And there was a disconnection that was created with the right-of-way closure. And so we didn't want to split the name Old Tazewell Pike because that's a concern for emergency responders. And so Old Tazewell Pike is not being lost as a name in this area. It still remains. It's just the section of it at the southern end, the south portion of the right-of-way closure that we're changing.
So the portion
So the portion highlighted.
directly below Luttrell will remain, that small strip will remain Old Tazewell?
No, that portion was closed there where it says Old Tazewell Pike right-of-way closed. So that's what created the disconnection. So everything north of that point will remain Old Tazewell Pike. It's just that area highlighted in yellow that is up for the name change.
Thanks.
Commissioner Adams.
I was reading in the case file where it appears like the December 4th survey that was sent around to the public. Is that what the public actually received?
They actually received 4 rounds of letters. We just didn't include all that with the paperwork when we submitted it. We reached out to them initially on September 26th, and that letter included 3 options of names: Jim Tublin, Corinth Church, and Samuel Harris. We reached out again November 1st, also with Corinth Church, Samuel Harris, and a suggested name that we received of World Church. And then after receiving additional responses, the final letter is what you see with December 4th, with the 2 that had the most votes, Corinth Church and Memory Hill.
I guess where did the name Corinth Church Street or Road come from?
That was provided by Mr. Murphy when we reached out to our staff historic planner for any information that she might have related to potential names in the area, and he had provided 3 different options for us, and that was what we included in the first round of letters to the property owners.
And is he also a resident of this area?
He is not one of the owners that abuts the street name change area, so he would not have an opportunity to vote.
So that's how resident is defined in option 2, which is defined as someone, this was suggested by a resident?
Correct. It was suggested by a community member as a potential name, but the voting parties are just those owners that abut the area of the name of the street that is slated for the name change.
Okay, I thought I was tracking you, but then when you answered, here's my question. And I'm getting into some
No,
psychology here, but
Yeah.
in terms of, like, personally, I think having a historical component there is more compelling than something that
Sure.
doesn't.
Yes.
But if I'm a resident and I'm being given this to vote, and I'm being told that one of my fellow residents has suggested this name, then I may be more compelled to think, well, maybe I should vote for that because my fellow residents suggested this. And so it seems like you're telling me that someone suggested this, they may or may not have been able to vote.
Correct.
And that is the
Yes.
same case as the Corinth Church Street name that
Right.
it was suggested by a resident.
But we included that in the letters for
Oh,
the
so what I'm
residents.
reading here is not what,
Well, the letter in the packet is the fourth letter that we received, the third letter that we sent out. There were two other rounds, 3 total letters, 2 other rounds prior to this that included Corinth Church as an option.
and is it normal to include that many rounds of voting?
It just depends on the number, how many responses we get. We're trying to obtain a majority vote, and this happened to be a very difficult process, getting neighbors to just respond at all. And then we kept receiving additional suggestions of names, and we thought it was our duty to provide more options, to the residents.
Okay, thanks for answering these. We don't do
Sure.
this a lot.
No,
so,
I
yeah,
understand. Yeah, that's okay. I don't do it often either.
This is kind of tough because I'm compelled for the historical name, but it seems like the community is voting otherwise, so it's a little difficult.
Commissioner Shelso.
So Memory Hill Lane was brought in on the third solicitation of rounds.
It was a suggestion after the second round of letters, and so that's why we submitted a third round. We had been at a tie, and so we needed another round to break the tie, and since this was another suggestion, it was
I
included.
don't particularly care for Memory Hill Lane. So I think we should.
I won't make any comment.
I think we should just not do that and name it, whatever, Corinth Hill Church Road. Yeah, that sounds good.
I would support that if there are other.
Okay.
I would second that.
And that, since it was already in consideration, I assume that's an okay name that staff has reviewed, right? Okay.
Yes,
it wouldn't
it's
be
not a duplication of any other existing street names. I will just add that other street name change processes that have been submitted by staff for safety reasons, we have always followed the process of reaching out via letter for input from the owners and not deviated from their preferred name.
I will make a motion to approve the name change to Corinth Church Street or Road.
And let me, sorry to interrupt, we realized that it's going to be a dead-end road, so the road type would actually be lane.
Lane.
We corrected that on our application,
Okay.
but it wasn't in the letters.
Okay, my motion is to move to approve the name change to Corinth Church Lane.
I will second that.
Okay, so we've got a motion by Commissioner Shelso to change the name to Corinth Church Lane, seconded by Commissioner Adams. Seeing no other lights, any other comments, concerns? Director Brooks, you want to weigh in on this? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, agenda item 26. This will require 2 motions. Applicant is Robert Gregory, Gregory Land Development, LLC, Location south side of High School Road, northwest of West Copeland Drive, 34.61 acres. Present plan designation and zoning is agricultural, low-density residential, hillside protection, agricultural. Proposed land designation and zoning is low-density residential, hillside protection, and planned residential. Existing land use is agricultural, forestry, and vacant land. Staff recommendation is to approve low-density residential land use classification for the agricultural designation or designated portion of the parcel because it is compatible with surrounding development and is an extension of the classification. Hillside protection designation would be retained. Second motion would be, recommendation would be to approve the planned residential zone with up to 2 dwelling units per acre because it's consistent with the recommended LDR land use and surrounding development. Is the applicant present?
I am Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street, here for the applicant.
And do we have any opposition? Any opposition? All right. Please proceed, Councilor Mullins.
Thank you. Again, Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street. Appreciate staff's work on this case. They are recommending the sector plan amendment, which we are in agreement with, and they are recommending a rezoning to planned residential, which we are also in agreement with. The only issue for today's consideration, I believe, is the appropriate density for that planned residential designation. This is in the rural area of the current growth policy plan. It is about, as you drive south on High School Road, about 3,017 feet south of the planned growth area. Under the current growth policy plan, section 3.5, extensions of density of 1 to 3 dwelling units an acre shall be considered if certain conditions are in place. And we believe that the record will reflect that these conditions are in place for this property. The first condition is that it be zoned planned residential, which everyone, staff and the applicant are in agreement that it should be zoned planned residential. So that condition has been satisfied. The second is that it have access to water and sewer, which this property is served by water and sewer by the Hallsdale Powell Utility District. So that condition has also been satisfied. The next two conditions are really situated around the road, and in order under the current growth policy plan to have a consideration of up to 3 dwelling units an acre, you have to submit a traffic impact analysis, which we did in this case by Robert Jackson, Ajax Engineering. Traffic impact analysis has been reviewed by planning staff and Knox County Engineering, and they didn't find that there were any conditions on High School Road, which is a 21-foot road, and that's kind of an average. It goes between the property into the planned growth area anywhere between 20 and 23 feet. An average of 21, I think, is what the staff's report says. And it's within a 50-foot right-of-way, but there were no conditions that were noted in the traffic impact analysis, and that would indicate that any improvements needed to be made on High School Road to manage the traffic that is anticipated from this development. And I think that's important because those are the final considerations for density to be from 2 units an acre to 3 units an acre in the planned growth area. And I haven't seen anything in staff's report or any of the comments from during the agenda review that would indicate any disagreement with the findings of that traffic impact analysis. And under 3.5, the current growth policy plan, it certainly says the intent of this section is to allow extensions of low density residential into rural areas when urban services, sanitary, sewer, water, and adequate roads become available, which are satisfied here in this application. The property is in the hillside protection area, but as staff noted, and I think I've submitted some photographs in the letter that I sent, quite a bit of the area has been previously disturbed. It was used as a borrow pit when the Kroger was being developed on 2.5 miles south. And so quite a bit of that hillside area has already been disturbed. And our concept plan, which is again required as part of the traffic impact analysis to have a concept, at least rough concept, we have proposed 103 units, which is 2.9 units an acre within that area of the disturbance. It will fit neatly within that area so we can avoid, the other parts of the property that have steep slopes on them. We are looking at doing a townhome, kind of missing middle housing form development within that area, and the planned residential zone would allow us that kind of flexibility to do that within the 3 units an acre that we are requesting. So again, the conditions of the current growth policy plan have been satisfied. There was a comment from staff at Tuesday's agenda review meeting that noted that the proposed growth policy plan would limit this to 2 units an acre. That's one of the compromises in the process, that in the rural areas, you're only allowed 2 units an acre when you have this infrastructure. And I understand that, and a lot of work has gone into that. We don't know where that process is. I think everybody hopes that it'll ultimately be passed. But right now, we're dealing with the existing growth policy plan and the current standards are in place. And, the Tennessee case law would inform us, and I'm referring specifically to the case of McAllen versus City of Memphis, and making land use decisions. While this body has a lot of discretion, we have to do that, exercise that discretion within existing policies. So we would respectfully think this property is appropriate for 3 units an acre. It'll help address a little bit more density in an area where the infrastructure can handle it and help catch up on the housing stock issues that we're having in the county right now. I really appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Huber.
Yeah, I think he makes a good point about the new land use plan that everybody's worked so hard on. I've got a lot of respect for, I know it's been in the process for several years, and I like the direction of it. Certainly gives us a little more boundary to vote on. However, that said, it's not approved. I mean, it's kind of hard to hang your hat on some things that may be changed between now and the final approval. I look at this area, I'm very familiar with Emory Road, that new Kroger up there. There's just a tremendous amount of commercial activity on West Emory Road on that side. Aubrey's is up there. I understand that's probably one of the highest grossing restaurants in his entire stable, which just means there's a tremendous amount of demand. This property clearly has had land disturbance on it before to build the Kroger we talked about on the old airstrip that once was on Emory Road over there. That being said, I mean, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the LDR land use classification for the agricultural designated portion of the parcel because it is compatible with surrounding development and an extension of this classification.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the LDR land use classification per staff recommendation by Commissioner Huber, seconded by Commissioner Higgins. And Commissioner Higgins has his light on, so let's go to Commissioner Higgins.
I agree with Commissioner Huber, and I was just going to add that when we get to the motion regarding the density, the number of units, I think that on a site that has already been disturbed, it's more appropriate for us to try to utilize that space. If it's, again, already been disturbed, I would much rather those extra 30 units or so go here rather than an adjacent site that's got a thick forest on it and would have to come down to make way. So I'll be supporting that after this vote as well.
Commissioner Biggs.
Just wanted to ask staff if there was any rationale aside from the future kind of change to plans to support the 2 dwelling units an acre versus 3, if there were any concerns that were identified.
I'll turn over to Samuel in just a minute, but I want to maybe clarify. So when you look at the staff report and you look at the rationale, I know we have been talking a lot about the draft comprehensive plan and the draft growth policy, but our recommendation is not based off of those documents. Just want to be clear about that. But do you want to go ahead?
No, I just wanted to say that the staff report is not written based on the proposed ongoing plan. And it also takes into consideration the maximum allowable density by the slope analysis, which is in Exhibit B of this package.
Commissioner Adams.
I agree with everything that Commissioner Higgins has said, and Commissioner Huber, can someone point to me where in the case file we have more commitment than council's comment, which I appreciate, about only disturbing the already disturbed area? Or is that just good faith? This is really a question. I know what you said.
I can answer the question because it is in staff's report.
Okay,
There's
great.
a single condition on the rezoning that the development site should be confined within the disturbed portion of the site. And we're fine with that condition, just with the additional density.
I want to clarify that that condition was removed upon looking at the aerial views more thoroughly. It looked like the whole area was disturbed at some point in the past. The grading work wasn't done, but if you turn on the 360 view, you'd see that the vegetation was disturbed. But it would be within the purview of this commission to add a condition to limit the disturbance within the
This may be why I'm struggling to see it if it's been removed. Yes. Okay. Great. I don't feel so crazy then. Well, then I can't remember where we are. If there's, you did make a motion.
We've got a
didn't you?
motion and a second for up to 3 dwelling units.
So-
No, just for the.
Oh, excuse me,
second
yeah,
plan.
we're on the second plan.
Well, while we're still talking, I would just like to say if as we're considering this, we could add that back as the requirement that we would only have development, as Counselor had noted, that it would only be in that area that has already been disturbed, as we're looking at the aerial, not what was further seen, but what was used as the borrow pit. That would be my preference.
It's up to the motioner.
So that was Mr. Higgins, but it's.
Was it Mr. Huber?
That was Huber.
Mr. Huber.
Excuse me.
So is that something we need to do on the sector plan though? Because this is, right now we're on the sector plan, is
Yeah.
that correct? That would be on the density side, I would
That's
think.
what it sounds like we were being guided to. So I don't need to make that now, but whomever makes the motion for the second portion of this I would like to do that. Okay.
We will duly note that in just a
a-
moment. So we've got a motion and a second, right?
On the sector
On
plan.
the sector plan. And Commissioner Scelso.
For county engineering, are there any road plans along this area?
Commissioner Scelso, there are not. We recently installed a four-way stop downstream of this location due to some growing traffic on East Copeland Drive. But in this particular area, we have no plans to improve High School Road.
And the traffic impact analysis says there's no turn lanes are warranted from either direction, right?
That is correct, and we concur with that analysis.
Does that take into account just current traffic volumes? I mean, is that turn lane warranted change based on how traveled the road is?
It is. We look at it, background traffic, and then they grow the traffic at a growth rate that we collectively discuss and agree upon. And then usually, I think it's 2 to 3 years, whenever the subdivision develops, we apply the traffic that will supposedly be there 2 to 3 years down the road once those left turns are actually presented in the field. Mm-hmm. And based on that, it did not meet our thresholds for turn lane warrants, either right or left.
Okay.
Okay, we ready for a vote, or Commissioner Higgins, do you want to?
I've got some question for staff, but it's regarding the density, so we can go ahead and vote on
Okay,
this.
all right. Seeing no other lights on this particular motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's see. Chair will entertain a motion regarding the rezoning.
If I could just say something real quick, just to follow up on, there might be, just looking at the Exhibit B for the disturbance area, there might be some realignment of the road that needed to be done on that. And I just want to make sure we had the flexibility that we're talking about. The road itself might need to be realigned. That might be outside of Exhibit B on that condition, but the development site itself in that disturbed area, I just didn't want to put ourselves in a corner on realigning that road versus the the area that's already been disturbed for the density, and make that clarification. I apologize for jumping in there. Hope I didn't confuse everybody on that point.
May I talk to?
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Adams.
I'm interpreting what you're saying as when you see the skinny little line that goes out,
That's
you may
correct.
need to make that.
That may
instead
need
of
to be
this, it may
adjusted
need to
one
be
way or the other
this.
based upon the topography and how it aligns with the current road. And so even though it's part of the previous disturbed area, that may have to change. But there's that larger overall island of disturbed area that will be the footprint.
The work site.
For the development itself. So I just want to clarify, we have some flexibility with realigning the road as needed per engineering standards.
Okay, let's see here. Commissioner Scelso?
To leave my light on, but just kind of thinking about the traffic. I mean, I just see this area as somewhere where, we'll continue to see cases like this and we won't have turn lanes and, this is going to be, like Chodo Road someday. And we're going to be here talking about how we need to maybe not widen it by lanes, but, widen it by a foot or two to make it safer. And so I guess in thinking about the density, like that's what I'm concerned about granting more than the staff recommendation is, are we going to continue to go down this perpetual cycle of overbuilding an area with a road that won't be able to handle it?
Commissioner Huber?
With respect to that, I don't disagree with that thought about, thinking about the roads in the future, but this road, I mean, it's 21 to 23 feet wide currently, which is, you'd mentioned the Chodo area. I mean, we had just, last month, the Harvey Road in Chodo zoning, we approved at 3 units an acre, and I don't know that Chodo Road's up to 23, or pardon me, the North Shore Drive in that area is that wide. That being said, I mean, I'm comfortable at 3. I like the idea, don't like the idea that it's been disturbed. I like the idea that the applicant is going to try to maintain that in there. So I'll take a shot at it anyway. So I'm going to make a motion to approve up to 3 dwelling units per acre because it is consistent with the recommended LDR land use and surrounding development. However, the disturbed area shall remain roughly what is in the 2020 KGIS aerial from the rear of the property to High School Road. Does that make sense?
If you say from the rear of the property to High School Road, that could mean that they clear the entire area where the.
Yes, and what I'm referring to is the cleared area in the 2020. See the yellow cleared
Yes.
area
Yes.
from the back line of that.
Oh, sorry, side to side.
Towards High School Road, because that'll give them the flexibility to put that road entrance where they need to. Council, would that be accurate for you?
It would give us flexibility because we'll have to meet the slope requirements for the entrance in the road, and I don't know if that current driveway does or not yet. So that's going to have to be worked out during the development plan phase.
Right, okay, so my motion is for a density of up to 3 dwelling units per acre and containing any of the development to the disturbed area in the 2020 aerial and up to High School Road.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion from Commissioner Huber to approve up to 3 dwelling units per acre. You want to finish that off for me again?
And as you look at the 2020 KGIS, it's up on the screen right now. Disturbed area, the yellow dirt area, if you come from the very furthest point away from High School Road, we're giving them permission to develop and clear from that portion all the way up to High School Road, but not past it.
You got it. Director Brooks, okay.
Staff can, sorry to interrupt, staff can revise the previous exhibit to reflect what the commissioner has said, and it can be included as part of the package.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve up to 3 dwelling units per acre with the specifics that Commissioner Huber cited, seconded by Commissioner Levinson. Commissioner Adams.
This is a question for Commissioner Huber. I'm sorry I wasn't clear. My concern is that if the motion is passed the way that it was stated, that looking here, the 2 patches of undisturbed area that are on the left and right of the road as it's currently cut, those would be completely cleared.
They would have the option to clear those, yes. That doesn't necessarily mean they would clear them, but what council was indicating was that they're not sure exactly where that entry road is going to hit on high school due to some topography issues. So that does give them the flexibility there, but everything behind would stay intact.
Would it be possible to simply say that there's flexibility for the realignment of the road as opposed to giving the ability, the option to clear the entire thing? Because I'm being the pessimist and worried that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I think it'd be a challenge at this stage, given we're just at zoning. They'll have to bring the concept plan back for planned residential. So I'd be a little hesitant, just from my experience of developing properties like this. It's hard to pin it down that tightly right now. So I would prefer it to still have that flexibility for them to be able to do that. But it still maintains, I mean, if we look at the, let's see if I can find it.
It looks like, and again, I'm going off of this image, that Samuel indicated that some other portion of this had been disturbed, and that's why they changed their staff recommendation. And it looks like I'm calling it the front part, but the portion between the really disturbed part and all the way to high school is what has been untouched. That may just be my perception of this image. Please.
May I clarify? So the front, excuse me, my name is Stephen Clare, 7800 Senate Lane. I'm representing the developer. So the front portion is not completely undisturbed. That actually, most of that is scrub brush, maybe 15 feet high. And so I think that my question would be, obviously we do need flexibility in the alignment of the road, especially to meet the slope requirements for Knox County, and also to not cause an exceeding amount of grading to come straight up that hill, because the side where the driveway is steep. But also, if we're going to present this as a completed neighborhood in order to beautify it, I don't know that we want to bring that road through just scrub. And I think as a developer, we would be happy to present a landscape plan that showed that we were going to replace that with whatever type of planning that we would want to do to beautify that area. And we can do a dense evergreen, whatever it would need to be. But there needs to be some flexibility in that, just because of the look of it in general, to sell the homes that are built in the neighborhood, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm tracking. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if I can, Mr. Clark, is it? So you're okay with everything behind that? You're trying to keep everything where the yellow disturbed area is and forward?
Yes, sir, exactly. And I think my biggest concern with, and I think you clarified it very, very nicely, was originally there was a little dotted line that just followed the dirt. The problem is that whole area right there was disturbed, and some of the transition from what you see on the left and the right of that, the patch that we keep talking about, it just drops off. And so there's going to be required grading to make all those transitions, to make stormwater flow with swales. But what you said from the back of that out, we're great with that. Anything behind that, we're happy to leave and leave it undisturbed. Most of that, it seems, was cleared at the time of them borrowing from this. It's grown up again. I don't know how many years ago the Kroger was built, probably 5 or 6 years ago. So it's generally the same size as the front, but we're happy to let that continue to grow and just work from that point forward.
Right.
I've got a question for you too.
Yes, sir.
After.
So just my quick math on KGIS anyway, it looks like the total property is 34 acres,
Yes, sir.
some in that ballpark, and it looks like the area behind it, because looking at the aerials and the topography, it looks like the whole thing may have been cleared almost at one time.
Yes, sir, it was.
And then it regrew, and then there was a second grading operation in the middle.
Yes, sir.
there, what we're looking at with the disturbed area now, and that's where you're going to keep it contained.
Yes, it's a good area of minimal grading, wonderfully provided that there was no rock on the property.
Right.
And it's an easy thing to do. Obviously, we need some flexibility on the sides to make the transitions for the neighboring properties correct, so we're not dumping stormwater. But that recommendation that you made is great with us if it works. for the
So,
council.
I mean, my final point is just scaling it off on KGIS, it looks like that area behind there is almost 16 acres that they're talking about leaving. So it's almost half of the property is going to be maintained by allowing them to put 3 units an acre there forward. So I think it's a good motion.
I noticed from the aerial, there's a power line cutting through. Is that, does that have an easement associated with it?
It does, sir. And our design our concept plan that we'll be submitting based upon this recommendation will account for maintaining the distances of that easement.
Okay.
We won't be building anything within that.
Okay. Yeah, because just thinking about how that will provide some limitations to the development in the front. And then I had one question for staff. You mentioned on Exhibit B, the slope analysis, the number of units. When you all do that, is that looking at the dwelling units as single family or townhouses, or is there a difference there?
There is no difference between the type of structures, but this is based off the hillside protection and ridge stock plan, and the maximum density of 3 dwelling per acre it's coming from the growth policy planning.
Okay.
Yes, it's just based off of dwelling units per acre.
Does it make sense to use the same calculations for, and I know that this zoning could be single family or townhouse, but does it make sense to use the same calculations for a townhouse development as it would a single family neighborhood, since those dwelling units would be closer together with townhouses?
I'm not sure that's something that we've discussed in depth. That might be something that we can consider going forward at all.
That would just be because I think it makes a lot more sense if this were single family, the limitations of 2 per dwelling unit, because that's going to limit how much of the, how many parcels there are getting cleared. But with single family, if they're right up against each other, then that can live within a smaller footprint and disturb less area. So and I know that we at this stage don't control what the use will be, but I'm pointing that out made me wonder if maybe there's a more nuanced way to look at it for developments that are doing higher density or closer together. So, thanks.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Huber, seconded by Commissioner Levinson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Yes. 27.
Okay. Next is agenda item number 27. Applicant Benjamin C. Mullins, location east side of Ebenezer, south of Cedar Springs Lane, and north of Rosemont Boulevard. Present plan designation and zoning is low-density residential, office, hillside protection, stream protection, and exclusive residential, planned commercial, planned residential. Proposed plan designation and zoning is low-density residential, office, hillside protection, stream protection, office, medical, and related services, and planned residential. Existing land use, agricultural, forestry, and vacant land. Density proposed 5 dwelling units per acre. This will require 2 motions. Staff recommendation is approve the office and LDR land use classifications as specified in the exhibit map because there are minor extensions that are compatible with surrounding development. Hillside protection and stream protection areas would be retained. And the second recommendation for motion would be approve the OB, Office Medical and Related Services Zone, and the planned residential zone up to 5 dwelling units per acre as specified in the exhibit map because there are minor extensions and are compatible with surrounding development. And we have Mr. Mullins before us. Do we have opposition? All right. Mr. Klein. Okay. Certainly. All right. Would you like to proceed or defer?
I'll go ahead and proceed because as Mr. Klein said, now he stole my thunder on that. I was going to say it's not so much opposition, more as a dialogue and a conversation with the surrounding property owners on this. This property is a large parcel of property just south of Kingston Pike out in West Knoxville. It's one of the larger tracts in District 3 that has still not been developed. And it's been sitting there kind of like a sore thumb for a number of years with this planned commercial zoning along the front of it, which the family had gotten done back, I believe, in the early 2000s, if I remember correctly. This is the old DeBoard farm. A lot of the representatives, Mr. Klein's here for the neighborhood of Briar Glen. Of course, there's also Suburban Hills to the kind of the northeast of this, and he's been representing them in our conversations. This property is already partly zoned PR, and I think the intent, it was zoned at the same time as the Briar Glen subdivision, and you can see there's those roads that kind of dead end into that PR zone, and the intent was that eventually Briar Glen would be extended into that existing PR. Well, those plans never came to fruition, and eventually the zoning was changed. Our plan is to take away all that planned commercial, which I think we agree with the neighborhood just doesn't make sense for that area. There's that small parcel that's kind of cut out there. That's not part of this application. It will remain planned commercial. But to take that and convert it to OB until you get to the south, and then the portion that's abutting Briar Glen, change that to planned residential. You can see the hashed area is going to go from PC to OB, which allows office uses. There's an extension of OB there to the north, but it also allows all the residential uses that RB would allow, including multifamily, 12 units by right and up to 24 on a use on review. The PC is going to be the remainder of it, and we're wanting to do a mixed development where we do have some type of multifamily on the part that's going to be OB, and then have another entrance there off of Ebenezer for the planned residential and develop that. This was on the agenda last month, and at the request of the neighborhood and Commissioner Oster, who's here in the audience as well, we postponed it so we have some more time to talk about their concerns. And we're still talking about those concerns. I think we're in agreement. You know, we can reduce our zoning to 4 units an acre, I think, for the planned residential. That's something that we have made to the neighborhood. We're also, interesting, when Briar Glen was developed, the property line to the north, there was no peripheral setback applied to it because I guess it was supposed to be part of the PR there. But we're going to maintain and agree not to seek a reduction in the 35-foot peripheral setback that's in the PR zone along the areas that are abutting those existing neighborhoods as well. So I'm sure there's enough separation between their property line and the buildings that we ultimately will develop there. We're also looking at doing some additional landscaping. If you look at the aerial there's quite a bit of landscaping. Briar Glen does a really good job. It's a beautiful community, and there's some existing landscaping there already. And our proposal is, and this is, I think, still part of the dialogue that's going on, is that we're going to kind of fill in with some 6-foot arbor green giants, 15 feet off center along that line. I think they may want something a little beefier than that. And again, that's part of the conversation. They're just talking about what we have offered so far. The biggest issue, and when we postponed this, we had a meeting with the neighborhood, with both Suburban Hills and Briar Glen, and it was really, really well attended. About 83 people attended. It was during the great snow, so that should tell you that it was our Thursday on the great snow. So the roads were passable, but Ms. Oster even got Mr. Snowden to appear, which I know that with everything that he had dealt with that week, that was a colossal task, and I really appreciate his efforts to do that. But we answered questions about how this process works, and there'll be a development plan moving forward. But the biggest issues are the stub outs that are there. The neighborhood doesn't want it. Commissioner Oster doesn't want it, and we're fine with not having the stub outs as well. we think we can design our subdivision in a way that, we'll be able to meet all the additional codes without having to connect to those existing neighborhoods. So with all that said, I know Mr. Klein has got some things he wants to say as well, but I think we're working together. I think we'll continue to work together, and we'll be, happy to try to work through these issues before we get to county commission. But at this stage, we just ask that you go ahead and approve per staff's recommendation with the reduction of the density being to 4 units an acre. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Klein?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wayne Klein, Hodges, Daddy, and Carson. We're now at 445 South Gay Street, Suite
Mr. Klein,
400.
if I may interject here, I just want to make you and others aware that I think we do have 2 others signed up to speak on behalf of this matter.
I will then attempt to be brief and reserve any remaining time to come back and talk if need be. How's that? Mr. Mullins has discussed where we're at. We were not so concerned with connectivity until we got to the pre-agenda meeting, and now we are. I must say that I don't think that this body has legal authority to condition their approval of either a sector plan change or zoning based upon the use of stub outs. And with that on the record, it is important to my clients who are Briar Glen Homeowners Association. If you're here, put your hand up in the air. Thank you. The public who's out there have been paying taxes, some of them since the early 1980s. They bought their property and saw things change, and they're relying on those stub outs not to be used because we're cooperating with the developer who doesn't want to use them. And so why would this body want to then try to enforce something that nobody in the community wants and all the adjacent property owners don't want? I would ask that you not consider using some type of condition or applying some type of condition on your approval. Suburban Hills is an adjacent property with a low density. Briar Glen has a low density. Hannah Place is an adjacent property. None of them want connectivity through stub outs, and all of them are seeking to work cooperatively. I'm not here in opposition. Work cooperatively to get this thing to a compatible state, and compatibility is the key. And that's why the staff recommendation includes compatibility. And so we'd ask that the land use classification, the sector plan amendment, the zoning and density be as described with no conditions. I will yield because other people want to talk, but that's the import of where we want to be. And I'll come back as time allows. And you might want to ask your lawyer about that legal question.
Thank you, Counselor. Already have, but thank you. Mr. Varnell.
I'm Zach Varnell. I live at 8720 Sandhurst Drive in the Suburban Hills neighborhood. And when we moved there a couple years ago, my wife and I and 3 of our kids, we moved there primarily for the walkable street. So everything Mr. Klein just said, that's a huge deal for us. Being able to walk our streets, and I mean, our neighborhood is one where kids are all over the place all the time. We're already concerned about some of the traffic flow through the neighborhood that connects from Kingston Pike to Gleason. And so our concern is the implications of this zoning amendment. We are definitely not opposed to the development of this area. We wouldn't say that that's a sore, or anything, but we would say that was a beautiful farm, but we knew development was coming. And we do appreciate Scott Smith. We want him to do this. The concessions he's already given us and ways he's thinking, we are very grateful for and appreciate. So the question we have is this what Mr. Klein's talking about? Is this a guarantee? Can we guarantee that the traffic problems that will come on Old Ebenezer and Gleason because of this development, will they not lead to having or request and then come through our neighborhoods? That's our big issue. I'm not a mathematician, but when Mr. Snowden at the community meeting talked about a net zero desire for what was going to be developed with these roads, when you look at Old Ebenezer and you look at Gleason and you already see the existing traffic problems plus the existing flooding issues in those two areas, it's hard to think that that's not going to cause tremendous damage. So I just want to be on the record saying that unless there's radical changes to Gleason and Ebenezer, much more than just a turning lane that's been proposed, I think what represents our neighborhood is to keep these zoning restrictions down and not allow for apartments, keep these zoning restrictions down as far as they can go. I don't know what the terminology is, but I'm sure you do. That's our request. I'm done. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Keith Jackson. Thank you. All right.
Hi, I'm back.
Okay.
Thank you. Briar Glen continues to work with Mr. Smith and then Ebenezer Holdings. He's the principal for Ebenezer Holdings and his attorney, Ben Mullins, in negotiating the maintenance of a peripheral setback in the PR zone. And so we're comfortable with the continued dialogue, and we hope to have that solved by the time it gets to County Commission. Our landscape buffer between these two developments is extremely important, and we have dug our heels in and are working hard. And so to the extent that Mr. Mullins represents what it might be, we're still working at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commission. Commissioner Biggs.
I just wanted to confirm my understanding that the appropriate time to discuss the stub outs and connectivity is during the development plan rather than the zoning. Is that correct?
I would certainly agree with that, and having conversation with Director Brooks, I think she would comment in the same manner.
Yes, I agree.
Commissioner Huber.
First off, I would certainly like to commend council, Mr. Klein and Mr. Mullins and Mr. Smith, certainly for working with the neighbors, because it's a challenging situation, as we all know sometimes. And so it brings me great joy to see you guys working together and working hard on trying to do it right, because it's a wonderful piece of property. It's been around for a long time and been very underutilized. It's been zoned commercial for many, many years as well. Could be developed as commercial right now. So I think some sort of transitional use between there, if it's office or if it is ultimately some multifamily, or along with even stepping it down even more to the residential, be it single family detached or some sort of attached product in there. I think it's a great use of the property. I think that engineering got all the confidence in the world in them to take a hard look at Ebenezer and the traffic flows in the area to make sure that everybody's safe and gets along well. So with that, I would like to go ahead and make a motion to approve per staff recommendation, approve the O office and LDR low density residential land use classifications as specified in the exhibit map, because they are minor extensions that are compatible with surrounding development. The hillside protection and the stream protection would remain the same.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the sector plan per staff recommendation by Commissioner Huber, seconded by Commissioner Barger. We still have lights on. Let's go to Commissioner Higgins.
Thank you. I just have a comment, and for the everyone involved, and I apologize, I wasn't at Tuesday's meeting. I was out of town, but so I don't really know how the conversation around connectivity went, but I do, even though, yes, it is too early to enforce it, I think that there are, you can look at the map and see there's 3 stub outs touching this currently, and it's on Ebenezer Road. I think that the connectivity is important. And so as you all move into the planning phase of this project and start laying it out, I think that when you come back with the development plan, there should be connections at those existing stub outs for better connectivity. And dead-end streets are not helpful for community growth or walkability. And so I think that with limitations, topography, I understand that there's a lot of different limitations, but I do think that a development plan that connects to the adjacent parcels would be the best to bring back. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Shelso.
Yeah, so for Commissioner Higgins, on Tuesday, I was inquiring if we could require the connectivity to stub outs as a condition of the base zone PR. That's where that discussion was coming from. And it was really more of a question, and I'm not going to make a motion to require it today or anything, but I do feel like I'm in a dream. That's not real life, that we have these subdivision regulations that are supposed to promote connectivity, build neighborhoods in which people live in, but no one's pinched me yet. And we've seen it come before this body multiple times where stub outs are not utilized, and we end up in a situation down the road where you can't walk around except in circles within your own subdivision. And so it's disheartening, and I would think that if there's, some single-family residential and maybe that part of that property, maybe those connect, and then the front part that's maybe office or dense could stay on Ebenezer, because, that's going to cause problems on everyone trying to turn out onto Ebenezer, too. But that's my 2 cents.
Do we want to get this sector plan out of the way first, and we can continue conversation related to the stub outs? But we have a motion and a second, don't we? Okay. Commissioner Adams?
I'm speaking about stub outs as well, but it's contiguous. The thing I wanted to say is similar to Commissioner Higgins, is that I understand that the large conversation around this will happen with the development plan. But what I tend to experience is that the development plan comes, and then when we want to make adjustments to that, the language is often, well, we've already invested in this way, that would take a lot of rework, et cetera. So I too want to say, I understand that the community is saying we're not really interested in this, but this property is prime for that, and we have been tasked, and the larger community has said that they want that. So I encourage you to come with a plan that does consider connectivity with the options that are there. That doesn't mean you utilize every single one of them, but just think about those things so that when we're looking at that development plan, we have some of those connectivity considerations in front of us.
Well, while we're on that topic, I might as well comment. I'm always an advocate of connectivity, but connectivity is not always appropriate. And, we have a neighborhood here. We have all the parties here. I've seen, I could reel off, several neighborhoods that were ill affected by connectivity. So I think while it seems good in theory, and often it is good, it's not always good. And I could see, even some of these other neighborhoods being a reverse cut through. And so I just think we ought to be open-minded to, and certainly consider the folks that are there, and the developer who's worked with the community. We've always encouraged the developer to work with the community. So, and I also agree that the appropriate time to deal with that is at the development plan level. So, county commission could even intervene prior to us to deal with it. So, we have Commissioner Biggs.
Yeah, I was trying to kick this to the development plan, but since we're all commenting, I'll throw in my 2 cents too. I think, my understanding of this body is we're charged to make long kind of term land use decisions. And I think when we think about public infrastructure like roads, those are going to be there for decades beyond kind of current residents. And I think there's well-established kind of research and doctrine that, connectivity is beneficial for a variety of reasons in neighborhoods. And so if we think about that in the context of physical infrastructure for the county, I think it's short-sighted of us to overemphasize kind of the desires of current surrounding residents. And, we make a lot of decisions here that don't necessarily satisfy the desires of surrounding residents, whether that's density, whether that's other things. We just renamed a street that didn't meet the voting of surrounding residents. So I think when we think about connectivity, we should do it with the long-range context of infrastructure and land use. And so, yeah, to be continued, I guess, at the development plan.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioner Levinson.
Well, just for clarification, connectivity is a broad statement. Is connectivity a path between the two neighborhoods, a sidewalk? Is connectivity a road? I mean, it's such a broad statement. I think the neighbors don't want traffic, but then on the other hand, I don't know if they'd mind having connectivity to have another place to walk. So I think my confusion when we keep throwing around connectivity is to define what connectivity is. And right now I'm thinking, is it a road or is it a path? Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just want to help connect us all back to the motion before us and call previous question.
All right. We have a motion and a second related to the sector plan per staff recommendation, to approve per staff recommendation. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Huber.
I'd like to make a motion to approve OB Office Medical and Related Services Zone and the planned residential zone up to 5 dwelling units an acre as specified in the exhibit map, because they are minor extensions that are compatible with the surrounding development.
We have a motion by Commissioner Huber to approve per staff recommendation on the rezoning, and seconded by Commissioner Barger. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, agenda item 28. Applicant Kendra Aites, location southwest side of Ellistown Road, southeast of Rutledge Pike, 1.85 acres. Present zoning is agricultural, zoning requested, low-density residential, existing land use, single-family residential. Staff recommendation is to approve the planned residential zone up to 1.5 dwelling units per acre because it is consistent with the sector plan and appropriate given the environmental constraints on the property. Is the applicant present? And do we have any opposition? Any opposition? Seeing none. If you'll give your name and address, please.
Okay, my name is Kendra Aites, and I'm at 1715 Ellistown Road. I just want to thank you for hearing this today, and I just kind of want to explain what I am trying to do. I just want to add one other single-family residence to move my parents here. My father is almost 80, and he's in very bad health. Aside from that, I have a lot of disabilities. I also have a 5-year-old with autism, so it would be nice for my mother to be here to help me as much as I can help her with him. I do know that in the beginning of this, there was mention that the only problem may be that it is an unmaintained road, but that is not true. It is a county-maintained road, and Northeast Knox Utility District's water plant is at the end of the road. So I don't really know why that would be an issue. It's just two people with one vehicle. Most of the time, they will probably ride with me anyways. And that's pretty much all I had to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commission? Commissioner Smith, if you could I could barely hear that. If you'll, for the record, please.
Motion to approve.
All right. We have a motion
Second.
to approve.
Second. Right.
Okay, all right. Per staff recommendation by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Higgins. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 29, applicant Justin Brainer, location Black Road and Ridgeland Drive, 9.94 acres. Present plan designation and zoning is agricultural, hillside protection, agricultural. Proposed plan designation and zoning, low-density residential, hillside protection, planned residential. Existing land use, rural residential, single-family residential. Density proposed up to 2.99 dwelling units per acre. This will require two motions. Staff recommendation is to approve the rural residential land use classification because it's consistent with surrounding area. Hillside protection would be retained. And the second motion, staff recommendation, approve planned residential zone with up to 2.99 dwelling units per acre zone because it is consistent with the surrounding area. Is the applicant present? Okay. And do we have opposition? Okay. All right. So would the applicant like to proceed or defer?
Defer.
Defer, all right. So. Okay. Mr. Robert Brolowski?
I'm not sure how many other people wish to speak because there wasn't clear from the instructions that
Looks
somehow
like we
we're
have
supposed to.
three. We have three.
Yeah, I've been
Two
told
more, three in total, two more after you.
two more. Okay, and I'm not sure if one of them is the geological engineer, but I've submitted comments already to the commission there fairly extensively, and I think this just illustrates some of the issues of trying to infill these areas where we have a lot of housing surrounding, and we have a beltway of hillside. And we're really concerned, and we have a lot of concern because we already have a lot of storm runoff, and we've had already had alteration of the landscape there. And one of the aspects of this is that there's really two very distinct areas involved in this parcel there, and I was at least proposing that you could divide the process into the phase 1 into the phase 2 areas there, because I'm not sure who wishes to address the phase 1, but I think there are many of us who live downhill from that hill who are very concerned about any possible development on the phase 2 area at this time, and we're not aware of there being a need or a plan to actually develop that area at this time. And so I would feel that we would be best to defer action on that phase 2 area and allow some further study that would integrate that whole wooded area that extends down from the villas all the way up to the top of the hill there. That forms a buffer between the development on Black Street and all the new houses along the Campbell Station. And at this point, I'll defer to let someone else speak. And
Thank you. Ms. Clinton Tommen.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. Just wanted to touch on a couple of things that some of the citizens were concerned about, or the other residents.
May I get
Excuse
you-
me, I'm sorry.
May I get you to just give your name and address, please?
I'm from 1229 Loggerhead Lane. So I've talked to some of the other residents there, and some of their concerns is that the development is like on the steepest slope right above where Braxton Creek is. It's on that steepest part of the whole property. We don't see any issue actually with phase 1 as listed in the application dated on 2/2 of 2024. It fits right into the density of the homes along the north side of Black Road. But we worry about the phase 2 aspect of it. The common area berms along the side of the common area behind our mailboxes at the lot number 16 and number 17 are high enough the water coming down from the northeast corner of Braxton Creek would not overflow them. All the water that will run through the low place to the east of the mailboxes. I would request that the company that is handling the new housing addition install a ditch liner at the low place where the water runs into and out of our common area. Back in 2019, we had 17 inches of rain. So that caused a lot of flooding just the way it is right now. So we're concerned about, with the driveways and playgrounds and all that, waters and the roads, the water's going to run a lot freer without anything to catch that. So if they could put in some drains to divert, that'd be great. With the house build up on the hill from the northwest corner of Braxton Creek, it could cause more water to flow into lot 16. We'd request that when the work starts in phase 2, that a shallow drainage ditch be installed along the side trail that exists along the fence line today. That would keep the water from running into the back of lot 16. If the builder of that new addition installed a shallow drainage ditch along the fence line north of the towns, we have some townhomes right above us, just about no water would flow into their common area. Again, that part of the 9-acre property drains pretty much to the west. Any overflow of that retention pond would be captured by the huge deep sinkhole they have there. We have a overflow basin that we keep dry. Unfortunately, the townhomes above us like to keep theirs full of water already. We have ducks and we have geese in it and frogs and everything else. So, I mean, it's already at capacity. So we're thinking any kind of flooding is going to make that, flood even more. So if we can get some drainage ditches in there to divert that water, that'd be awesome. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Bill Broughton.
Good morning, Bill Broughton, 1295 Loggerhead Lane. We've lived there about a year and a half, and I would call it memory lane for us because most of the people on the subdivision are at retirement age. We bought this as our retirement home. My home is the one, lot 16, that we've invested over $5,000 just in the last year to try to divert water that already comes off the hill. Ignorant to the process, I'll just say a couple things. We only found out, majority of us, about the subdivision plans within the last 2 weeks. Having sat here for the last few hours, I hear how the developers speak with the people around. We've had no conversation. I'm not aware of any conversation about what's happening. What's being displayed up here doesn't show phase 1 and phase 2 because they are radically different. We'd like to know what is phase 2? What kind of housing is that? There's just so much ambiguity. Phase 1 puts houses along the Black Road, and I don't think I've heard anyone in our subdivision saying that that's not consistent with what's already happening. It's phase 2 where they're getting into the wood lines and they're creating a park and some other things back there. So number one, there's an ignorance to the process and awareness. There's been no communication. And number two, what we've already discussed, if you look at my house there, which is at the end, that elevation has been a great challenge for my wife and I the last year of landscaping that and having others landscape it. In fact, the lawnmower has already, the company that cuts it has already tipped over and flowed down our hill and took out half of the bushes that were there. So when you look at that area, there is a significant risk that whatever they do there is going to add additional water, and I'm not sure what our action would be. So I wish that we were dealing with phase 1, phase 2, because you wouldn't get much concern on phase 1. And secondly, it'd be nice to have communication about what phase 2 means. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any others? What was the name? Do we have anyone else that had signed up to comment? Make sure we're not overlooking someone. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
My name is Justin Briner. I live at 11912 Black Road. So I'd like to take the opportunity to use this platform to address the committee, and I hope all you guys are doing well today, but also the concerns and remarks from my neighbors. To be clear, phase 2 is not on the docket. I do not know if there will even be a phase 2. The second thing is nearly 100% of the opposing comments are due to the wrong documents being posted in the case file on KPC website. This was resolved this past Monday. So what happened was I had submitted some stuff for traffic engineering to just, like drawing on a napkin, basically, like what could something be in phase 2? I have no idea, but I wanted to get a certain density for, if I did need to do something or want to do something in the future. That's all that was. Third, it's important for me that everyone knows I live at the subject property. And while I may be an avid local developer by trade, I also have incentive to develop quality homes that will fit with the existing surrounding properties. In response to some comments that were made online, Tom is the only one who made a comment relating to phase 1, if we'll call it, the 6 houses along Black Road. And although it's related to phase 1, all of those comments are related to concept and subdividing portion, not the rezoning portion. All of the other comments, I think it's Frank, Randall, Alice, and Robert, all had submitted some opposing arguments about this. If I develop the back section of the property, which I'm calling phase 2, all of your concerns mentioned will be considered and reviewed during the engineering process. If I develop that area you are concerned with, there are systems in place to address your concerns, and I work with the best local engineering firms who have been designing subdivisions for over 40 years. I would not expect anyone who is not involved in development continuously or educated in civil engineering to know how or what is considered. Additionally, I don't feel it's my place to educate the neighbors, but want them to know as a resident myself that I care. I do want the ability to develop phase 2, hence my rezoning and density request. Regardless of what I do with the property in the future, I am positive all engineering and designs will consider your concerns and can assure you that any development by me will meet or exceed all regulations. That's really it. I just wanted to add, if there are any questions by any of my neighbors, they're welcome to knock on my door. This is a quick process for me. I closed on the property November 4th and would like to get going on the houses on Black Road. But other than that, I don't really have any other plans. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams.
Director Brooks, can you explain the wrong files being posted? Is that the case? And did the community have the length of time they're supposed to have to be able to see the correct files?
I'll address the first question. My understanding is that that a TIL, a traffic impact letter form was submitted, but that it was determined by county engineering that it wasn't needed. And so I think that was the file that was posted. I'll look to staff to yes or no, I think that's what I understood.
Yeah, so we have we call it pre-submittal transportation impact analysis scoping determination form. And because this property is in the rural area in the growth policy plan and they're asking for more than 2 dwelling units per acre, the growth policy plan recommends a traffic impact letter. And in this case, when they submitted that pre-submittal form, which usually includes a site plan, just so that everybody knows generally what they're wanting to do. And it's by no means what they have to do ultimately. It was determined that a traffic impact letter really wouldn't tell us anything that we don't already know, so we did not require a traffic impact letter as part of this application.
And the second part of your question, if you don't mind repeating that.
Having heard the community members say that, or the developers say that the wrong files were posted, it made me concerned that the community had not had access to the public files for the length of time that they normally would have them.
No, that wouldn't be the case for this particular type of application, this plan amendment rezoning. So the files that would be part of that, of the materials that would be part of the public file include the application. And then we also post our staff reports a week in advance. So all of that was done in a timely fashion.
Okay. The only other comment I have is just concern hearing the community member, at least one of them, say that they were in the dark about what was going on and just wanted more communication. And to the developer, that is something that this body looks to hear and see. You've heard it in a number of cases today that we're always encouraging that kind of dialogue so that there is transparency and you end up with the best project at the end and everyone seems a lot happier.
Thank you. Commissioner Browning.
Thank you, Chairman Hill. It seems to me like the primary concern here is how we're going to deal with the water here, water runoff issues. Engineering, are we far enough along where you could address some of those concerns that?
We are not. They actually have a concept plan on the March agenda, and we've asked them for a conceptual plan for what they're going to do in phase 2 so we can get an idea of what the drainage is going to look like.
Chair will entertain a motion.
May I say something or not?
Procedurally, we're in the commission discussion now. So
Because he asked us if we had questions for him, that's why.
Oh, you're welcome to go over there and ask him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure. We're dealing with the sector plan. Commissioner Adams.
I'm just going to ask the group if there's any stomach for postponement. It's a genuine question to this body.
I would say this about that.
Yeah.
And I think we're all unified in the fact that we do encourage developers. However, there's no requirement. And it seems like we would then be making that more of a requirement. And I personally wouldn't support it as much as I want them to have dialogue.
Well, that's why I asked.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the rural residential land use classification because it's consistent with the surrounding area. The hillside protection area would be retained per staff recommendation.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith to approve the sector plan change per staff recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Barger. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Chair will entertain a motion on the rezoning.
So I move to approve per staff recommendation, the planned residential zone for up to 2.99 dwelling units an acre.
All right, we have a motion on the rezoning to approve planned residential per staff recommendation by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Barger. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, let's take a 10-minute break. Okay, let's resume, and we will resume by addressing agenda item number 34. Applicant Smith Built Homes, location west side of Roberts Road, north of Washington Pike, 74.73 acres. Present plan designation and zoning is agricultural. Proposed plan designation and zoning is low-density residential, planned residential. Existing land use, agricultural, forestry, and vacant land. Density proposed, 3 dwelling units per acre. This will require 2 motions. Staff recommendation is to deny the low-density residential land use classifications because it would be out of character with the surrounding agricultural and rural residential area. And the second motion is approve the planned residential zone up to 1 dwelling unit per acre because it will be consistent with the surrounding development and a minor extension of the zone. Is the applicant present? Mr. Sanderson, do we have any opposition? Okay, would you like to proceed or defer? Defer. Okay. All right, number 34, Mr. Kevin Murphy.
Mr. Chair, how many people are signed up today?
Looks like you and Mr. Trueblood. Let's see if there's another 34. That's it. Two of you.
Okay, all right. I'll aim for about 2.5 minutes then. All right, Kevin Murphy, 4508 Murphy Road. For the sector plan amendment, I believe it should be denied as staff has recommended. This entire area in northeast Knox was intentionally and deliberately designated agricultural land use classification in the 2015 sector plan update. There's a strong desire expressed by the community and then supported and adopted by county commission to preserve the agricultural and rural character of the region. So there's not a mistake in the sector plan. And in fact, in the land use classification table, this parcel checks all the boxes for agricultural, and even more so, it actually meets all the requirements for agricultural conservation land use classification, which it states should be considered for undeveloped tracts with the best soils. This, put a copy of the soil map in. This property is it's about 65% prime and locally important farmland soil as designated by USDA. So this is a really great piece of farmland. And if anything, sector plan would probably be more appropriate to be amended to be agricultural conservation. In terms of the rezoning request, I don't believe it meets the required criteria for rezoning. There aren't substantially changing conditions in the area. There haven't been sector plan amendments since the 2015 plan was adopted. The only zoning, if you zoom out a little bit in the last 20 years, was last year when somebody went from ag to rural preservation. So that trend is actually going more rural. Before that, you've got to go 20 years to the subdivision to the south to find a rezoning. So there's not changing conditions out in that area. More importantly, there's some adverse impacts. Rezoning this to planned residential could result in over 50 acres of prime and locally important farmland soil, which would be permanently lost. Very importantly, this is across the street from the Thompson Century Farm, and MTSU administers that Century Farm program. And in a email recently to some staff and Advanced Knox team, they stated that Tennessee Century Farms are jewels of historic and landscape preservation. But we don't have mandatory development and design standards that kick in to protect the rural character, historic farm buildings, open space and stuff that is in our agricultural area, that especially when you have historic resources adjacent to it. So since we don't have those, PR, and this one I don't believe is even requested or recommended to be clustered, which is in the land use classification table. I just want to finally point out there's a couple of criteria in the general plan that are really relevant. There's a principle that prime agricultural land should be protected for continued farm use, and another principle that the landscape of the rural areas in the growth policy plan should be conserved, including open space, historic site, and farm buildings. So we think that there's some tools that may be coming hopefully in Advanced Knox with some updated requirements in the UDO that could allow this to be developed more compatibly and ensure that. But right now, I think it's a little premature to rezone this one and start development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Mr. Trueblood.
Brad Trueblood, 6542 Colossal Lane, Coreyton. And I only have a couple of points. I couldn't piggyback that if I tried. My concern, and some of our residents there in the subdivision, is a concern about trying to annex the feeder road, which is like 30 feet, that was brought up to the property years ago when that Maury Ben Acres was developed. And that's the biggest thing there is there's not enough road or street from Roberts to the first stop sign. There's like 75 feet. If they were going to feed traffic from that subdivision into Maury Ben, we would have a parking lot in that subdivision morning and night when people go to work. I don't know a lot about traffic analysis. I know how I think it's done. There was one that was reported, and in looking at it, you would think nobody in Maury Ben ever got out of their house or drove out of the subdivision. I don't know how that was developed or taken. Like I say, I'm not an expert on it, but usually, there's a traffic counter or something out there. I never saw it, but that doesn't matter. I face Roberts Road. Big concern there. A bigger concern, and maybe that's not in your wheelhouse, but it needs to be brought up. Roberts Road I've lived in 4 states, and I can tell you this is Roberts Road, even though we live on it, we didn't realize it when we bought the house when it was built 4 years ago, is probably one of the most dangerous 2-lane roads I've ever seen in my life. Because there's no shoulders, it's starting to deteriorate, and some of that's just people's driving, and we can't control that. I know it's not going to get shown now, but I brought some photos of the actual road in my backyard. About every week when I mow, I check it, and there are tons of chunks of asphalt in the ditch, and I pick it up because I'm an OCD person. And I think that knowing that, and you can see cracks across it, there's no real potholes, but there are dips where it has sunken. And I think this kind of traffic on it, I think that needs to be addressed before anybody starts doing anything, or we're all going to be in dire straits in travel. That's what I say. Thank you for your time.
Did I overlook someone that intended to speak? Okay, if you may come up.
I'll sign you.
Did we use all the 5 minutes? Okay. And if you give your name and address and try to limit it to two minutes, and Mr. Sanderson, I'll give you an additional 2 minutes.
Sure. Adam Thompson, Little Flat Creek Lane in Coreyton. As Mr. Murphy referenced, we are about 16 years away from being a bicentennial farm. We were 2023 NRCS Soil Conservation District Farmers of the Year. I grew up on Roberts Road, and looking at this piece of property, I didn't understand just how prime this farmland was until they started working it up and clearing it off. That soil is dark and it's deep. It is if there's the epitome of prime farmland is that piece of property. I'm kind of jealous, to be honest. Like the gentleman before me stated, Roberts Road is not a safe road. The two ends, there's not a traffic light. The end on Emory Road, it's a blind hill. If you go to pull out on Emory Road, you've committed. You'd better go. If you hesitate, there's plenty of accidents on there. I don't think there's any plans on improving Roberts Road either end. The other thing we need to take into consideration too is at the application requested 3 dwelling units per acre. They're zoned for Coreyton Elementary School. Has anybody been to Coreyton Elementary School? I mean, I was there when there was 1 classroom per grade level. It's a small school. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves and end up like Hardin Valley, where you have Hardin Valley Elementary School, where there's like 1,100 students in a building designed for 900, and then you have to have Mill Creek and come in later and try to do a pressure relief. Let's get ahead of this and not put development ahead of what we're actually prepared for. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Sanderson?
Good afternoon. Josh Sanderson, 4909 Ball Road, representing Smith-Built Homes. I respect the opinion of the opposition. To quote Mr. Murphy, checking boxes, the previous landowner called us when they were interested in selling, and when we looked at it on a map, it was like, there's going to be no zoning around it. Well, we pulled up the zoning map and right next door, 1 to 3 units an acre, so we checked that box. Well, there's probably no sewer there. Well, let's call KUB and get a letter from them and see them analyze the sewer capacity. Boom, no problem. Way beyond 3 units an acre. Well, I bet traffic is probably the problem. Well, let's hire an engineer and let's go study the traffic. Surely that's going to come back. Everyone else is saying it's bad. No improvements needed. We've checked the boxes, and as a developer, we went ahead and closed on the land because we could not actually tell the landowner that there's one reason or one prime problem with their property. I'm not trying to develop this Century Farm. Them conserving their farm, hats off to them that they can afford to do it. We bought this farm, we have property rights. We're trying to bring it in front of you for zoning. So at 1 unit an acre, not even worth commenting, not even worth talking about. 2 units an acre, when we bought it, that's probably what we assumed we were going to get, to be completely transparent. But at 3 units an acre, what we can do is do something for this side of the community of Knox County that doesn't exist. Build a community with amenities, with a pool, with sidewalks, with streetlights, with something that when we have more people in the community, they can afford more amenities. Let us go knock on the doors of Murray Bend subdivision and say, hey, would you all like to be a part of like a big pool and amenities? Optional, if y'all want to join and increase their property value? I don't see why not. They talk about Hardin Valley, let's not get development. Guys, sewer stops right here. There's no other pieces of land to have additional sewer and turn this into Hardin Valley. Only thing we're going to do at 1 unit an acre is go next door and stub the sewer into that farm and build another 1 unit an acre. Then go to the next one and build another 1 unit an acre. It just doesn't make any sense when we have a willing and capable developer with a track record that we do, designing homes and communities that our home buyers, we have a following with our home buyers. People buy our house at our price. It used to be pre-COVID, they'd make $25,000 of equity instantly. Post-COVID, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's wealth that you cannot create, that first-time home buyers, these Gibbs graduates that we say, go be a mechanic, go be a plumber, go be an electrician, don't go to a lawyer. You don't have to live in West Knoxville, but they want a community, they want to walk on the sidewalks, they want to push their stroller to the pool. Don't rob this community of this. We're willing to do it. Y'all get to see a concept. We could come back in front of you and call me a liar the day I come back in front of a concept at 3 units an acre and I don't have a community pool or amenities. Another thing, Knox County is going to say there's no improvements to Roberts Road planned. My traffic analysis says right now there's nothing, but at 3 units an acre, something might come up and it might be private money that we volunteer to put shoulders on Roberts Road. So nothing's going to happen if there's already problems there that the general public is proceeding. Give us a chance to improve that and work with the county and work on Roberts Road and improve this. Let us partner, not just, this is prime farmland. Everyone has their rights. The Century Farm can be a Century Farm. This was meant to be a subdivision. In 2007, Knox County staff said, let's dub this road out because this will be a future development too. I will yield the rest of my time to commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Higgins.
Thank you. I'll start off by saying I drove this road a few months ago to take our kids up to the pumpkin patch up here. And I remember driving it and thinking that I need to slow down because this road is pretty dangerous. It seems like it could be very dangerous if another car, because it's a narrow road. And I remember passing the subdivision that's existing right there and saying out loud, wow, that is out of place. That is very much does not fit in with the character of this area. And so looking at this right now, the comment about Hardin Valley and, this becoming Hardin Valley, or the comment from earlier about Chodo, where now there's this all sorts of development and the infrastructure is really suffering because of it. I see this area as, like, if you look at the map, it is all green. And I think that coming in with a development of this size is completely out of place, out of character, and inappropriate for this area. I think that it would put a added strain on the infrastructure that's there. And I think that it could also lead to a bad precedent for adjacent farms, just as we've seen all over the place. This is a rural area, and I think it needs to stay a rural area. It doesn't need to become a suburb. So I oppose really any change to what's there, and think that it ideally would stay agriculture. I understand they may still separate it, cut it up, and parcel it out, but I definitely don't think that higher density allowance is appropriate here. Thanks.
Commissioner Huber.
Thank you. You know, I too actually drove out there today, you know, to try to get a good feel for the area. And I mean, no road's perfect in Knox County. I mean, I know engineering does a great job of trying to keep everything up, but it's a large county and it does spread out. I had a different experience on Roberts Road. I mean, as I was driving down Emory Road, in a lot of places, I didn't see a whole lot of difference. And I think Emory Road's in pretty good shape. You know, I mean, you go down it has some inflections up and downs on Roberts Road, but you know, speaking of Mary Ben, actually, I drove through the subdivision there too. Beautiful homes, nice little suburban home area. But like when you're pulling out onto Roberts Road, the sight distance to the left is a little iffy to me, you know, when you're pulling out onto Roberts Road. And I thought it was interesting, as Mr. Sanderson pointed out, that they, planning staff and I'm sure commission required a stub out to the property next door. And we've had a lot of discussions about connectivity. You know, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Jumping back to the Ebenezer Road, I wouldn't be as, the one we had earlier today, I wouldn't be as for that one being connected because it would draw a lot of that traffic directly through the entire subdivision, where this one is located right at the entrance. I would almost see an opportunity to develop the property next door and the opposite happen. Everybody in Mary Ben's using their entrance because it's safer. Because when you get really good sight distances, I could see on Roberts Road from the one next door, but it's marginal on that one. Yeah, I mean, from the boxes where Mr. Murphy was talking about, I felt the same way. I was like, gosh, it's got planned residential at 3 units an acre next door. It's the exact same thing. It's stubbed out. Yeah, I do kind of question the LDR. I don't know if it's right to go to LDR. I think in your report you had mentioned if we did change that, maybe rural residential would be a more appropriate sector plan. I think that might be appropriate, but you know, I think overall, I think it's good. I mean, it's got sewer. The road, if you look at it here, he's got it up on the aerial now, or on the street view. It's got the double yellow line in the middle and the white lines on both sides. And I don't know, Mr. Snowden, Director Snowden, does that mean certain widths or what does that show?
Sorry. Yeah, Commissioner Huber. Typically, and it can be said for all, I was measuring the aerial here. It looks like it's approximately 19, 20 foot wide, which is typically what we'd want to see as a minimum for center and edge line. It may vary a little bit. It's probably 19 in spots, but that's fairly common, obviously very similar to a lot of county roads out in the rural area.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, to me, again, I think it should be developed, and I have all the respect in the world for the farmland. And again, this kind of gets back into, I feel like maybe a little bit ahead of ourselves with the advanced Knox, where it's going. Advanced Knox would even support this in rural residential up to 2 units an acre, where staff recommendations at 1 in planned residential. So I feel like that's low. So, I mean, and it is. I realize it's a little further out on some of it, but with the sewer there, that's a big part of Advanced Knox. Advanced Knox says, hey, we need to do development where the infrastructure is in, where the road's wide enough, where there's sewer lines, there's water lines, there's capacity, and all those things are happening here. That being said, on the sector plan, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve rural residential land use classification because it would be in character with the surrounding agriculture and rural residential areas.
Okay, so on the sector plan, we have Commissioner Huber making a motion to approve rural residential, seconded by Commissioner Smith. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Let's call a roll. Mr. DeArmond.
Commissioner Boyer?
No.
Commissioner Huber?
Yes.
Commissioner Scelso?
No.
Commissioner Perez? Commissioner Browning?
Yes.
Commissioner Higgins?
No.
Commissioner Levinson?
Yeah.
Commissioner Biggs? I'm sorry? No. Commissioner Barger?
Yes.
Commissioner Adams?
No.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Overton?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Seven to six, sir.
All right, motion passes. 7-6? 7-6. Motion passes 7-6 to rural residential. All righty. On to rezoning. Commissioner Shelso.
Question for staff then, with the rural residential in place now, what would be a recommended density?
The Northeast County Sector Plan only recommends rezoning with densities at 1 dwelling unit per acre or less.
I'll make a motion to approve PR up to 1.5 units an acre.
Director Brooks, could you share with us what rural residential will allow as far as density goes?
The rural residential within this specific sector plan only allows up to 1 dwelling unit per acre or less. I think the question you're asking is it permitted to go up to 3? So that goes back to the growth policy plan, which does allow consideration of up to 3 in the rural area. But it also, it needs to be tied back to that LDR, which you all have already decided to go to rural residential. I know it's very confusing, all the different layers of plans.
So just so the commissioners are aware, they could go, they do have the authority to go up to 3 based on the growth plan.
Based on the growth policy plan.
But with the sector plan that we just approved, that's capped at 1, correct?
Per the adopted Northeast County Sector Plan.
But that can still be, you can still zone.
I'm sorry?
You can still zone higher than, because I would have not made that motion had.
Does this body have the authority to approve up to 3?
You all have,
Would you say guided by the growth policy plan? And is that sufficient?
our recommendation would be to, well, we already given you our recommendation. So you all can make a different recommendation and forward that on to County Commission for
And I've made
consideration.
a motion to approve up to 1.5.
And if, can I call for some discussion on that?
We're still at the commission level here.
May I ask a question of Commissioner Shelton?
Sure.
Sorry, thanks. I'm curious why you chose 1.5.
I made it up.
I like your honesty.
Well, now, wait a minute.
It seems a bit of a balance of over the
compromise.
recommendation, but
Commissioner Shelton, we are going to need you to state I'm sorry. In all seriousness, if you could state a basis for the 1.5 so that there is not a question about whether that is an arbitrary decision on your part.
yeah, so I mean, we have to pick a number, I suppose, if we're going to pass something, and it's more than the recommendation, but it doesn't quite go to, 3, which I don't see 3 fitting the area. The adjacent property, I don't know when that got approved or how that got approved, but as Logan said, it really doesn't appear to fit the area. And, 1.5 is half of 3. So I think if you reduce the density by half, it would fit better.
I wonder if I could just say with the question with the new sector plan, from a legal standpoint, does that open up the possibility of, I feel like we should limit to one and not go over that without a very strong reason and just stick to staff's recommendation because of the requirements written into that?
I mean, no one seconded my motion, so it can fail.
Would you consider amending your motion to 1?
Let's just let it fail, and then someone can make a new motion.
Okay, I'm not hearing a second. So motion fails.
So I'll make a motion to go for 1, as per staff's recommendation, 1 dwelling unit per acre. And we'll add to that I, having heard all the conversation, one thing that concerns me is that the only compelling argument I've heard, well, the only argument that I've heard today for 3, planning didn't recommend it. We've heard opposition to it, was the developer saying it just wouldn't be worth my time unless we went to 3. And I could do all this great stuff if we went to 3. And that to me is great for the developer, but it's not what we're supposed to be concerned with. So for that reason, and hopefully this satisfies if the council needed a reason, that I would make a motion for 1.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Adams, which would be approved plan residential per staff recommendation. Second, did I hear a second by Commissioner Perez? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We have more lights to discuss matters here. So let's go to Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And honestly, I get where you're at on 1. I disagree just because at 1 dwelling unit per acre, what you're going to end up with in that area is just urban sprawl, because it's going to just, they're going to start taking over farm after farm just to keep up with the demand. At 3, it might be pushing it to what is right now in that area, but there's also demand for people to move into the Gibbs community. I went to Gibbs High School. I know what the demand is up there. At 2, that is a lot size of a ½ acre per home. That is not uncommon if you go into the Alice Bell community, over into the Inskip community. When we lived in Inskip, our lot was a ½ lot acre. The house had been there since the 40s on that ½ lot acre. It's not uncommon even inside the city. It still left a lot of room for us to put a good sized garden. We talked about this is farmland. That would give the ability for homes in that area to have gardens to be able to produce stuff. One does as well, but I think that then you start getting into, is that too much space and we end up with sprawl? So just some things to consider as we're going through this. I think the happy median really is around 2, because that leaves a good sized lot for families to be able to still participate in what that area is with agriculture while living in an area that they desire to live in because of its uniqueness in East Knoxville and the community and the schools that are around there. So just things for everybody to kind of keep in mind, having been from that area. Honestly, we live not too far from that community. We live right over off Murphy Road. I don't know if he's still here. Mr. Murphy's a neighbor just down the road from us. So, I don't want to lose the culture of agriculture in that area, but there's also people want to move there. So let's do this smartly and think about this long-term, not just based on what we want right this minute based on personal preferences. Let's think about what's best for the community in the long term.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. I want to ask engineering. We see the adjacent neighborhood at 3 dwelling units per acre. So apparently you guys were, how would this change any concerns that you guys have if this went to 3 dwelling units per acre? Are there added concerns?
And I would ask the applicant, I think his traffic study was predicated on 3 dwelling units an acre. And I think there was the potential for maybe a left turn lane at, I can't remember, it's been a minute, but I think there would be, or would require some additional improvements at 3 dwelling units an acre, yes, sir.
Okay. So, and you all would, at that point, require that?
We would, yes. If you all chose to go to 3 dwelling units an acre, there would be additional improvements that we would require to mitigate that additional traffic.
Thank you. Commissioner Overton.
Thank you. Yeah. Part of the reason I decided to join this body was to advocate for young Knoxvillians, because as you all are well aware, there's a housing crisis here. But I'm the only person up here that's living that. And this is exactly the type of development that's going to help that problem. We've got a developer here who's done his due diligence, so to speak. He's looked at all of the infrastructure. He's looked at what he can and can't do before he even brought it before us. And so for us to deny it because we're emotional about a farmland that's already been sold to a developer, no one's raising cattle, no one's growing corn on that land as it stands. No one's offering to buy it. So the developer owns it, and we've got a great development coming in that he said could help Gibbs High School graduates own a home in Knoxville, stay here, plant roots and stuff, and help with the existing. We don't have houses to buy. And so we need them. And so you've got a responsible developer here with an attractive development. Why would we not say yes to that?
Thank you. Commissioner Higgins.
I just want to kind of respond to a couple of the comments and arguments and add to my thinking, because I think that higher density, I'll vote for higher density all day long in the appropriate areas, in rural or in more urban areas where we have the infrastructure built up, where it's already been developed for that. This has not been developed. This infrastructure has not been developed for higher density, and of course, I know 3 dwelling units an acre is not high density by any means, but I am trying to think long term, because I think something of this size, if you look around, this area is not what you would call suburban sprawl. You would not use the word sprawl for most of this area. Once this is built, that's going to be the catalyst for sprawl. And, again, I would be against, I'm really against anything on this, because this is the problem that we see so often come before us. People have invested in an area or moved into an area that was rural, and now it's overgrown. The traffic is hard to manage, and this is like clear area. And so not from I'd like to hear the birds chirping and that kind of standpoint, but just from a strategic long-term planning standpoint, this is not a good, I don't think this is a wise location to be developing or to start to add subdivisions left and right. And I just think that this will be a catalyst for that. So that's why I oppose it, is for the long-term thinking. Thanks.
Thank you. Let's see here. Commissioner Huber.
Yeah, I want to touch on the affordability thing again. I mean, I think that's a huge issue that we have in what we approve. I mean, we're talking about acre lots. Who buys an acre lot anymore? Nobody. One, they can't afford it. Two, they don't want to maintain it. I mean, from a cost perspective, you're literally doubling the cost of that lot. So you can imagine what that'll do to the house. I mean, we're talking about, if you're at 3 units an acre, they could probably build a house that's maybe $350,000, $400,000, $400,000, something like that. You go to 1 unit per acre with acre lots, it's going to force something that's not in the market. They're going to force it to $1 million homes. And, to my other commissioner down here, who can afford that? And who wants to go out and live on a 1 acre lot when there's 3 units an acre right next door to them already? I think as a body, we need to keep affordability in mind. I'm not saying cram everything everywhere, but I think affordability, and I think a half acre lot, as Commissioner Smith said, is very, very generous in today's world, and even in the area out there. I mean, again, I love Coreyton and Gibbs out there. I get out there fairly often. Beautiful place, but half acre is, in my opinion, the largest they should be. from an affordability perspective, because we do have a housing crisis, and we're gonna end up approving something that nobody's ever gonna be able to live in. That's my point.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Barger.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate what Commissioner Huber and Commissioner Overton said. You know, I teach a class at the University of Tennessee, and when my seniors graduate, they're having to move out of our city because there's not enough affordable housing for them. So, you know, with that being said, I think that we do need more subdivisions in outlying areas, you know, whether it is people of my age that's moving kind of on the outskirts of town for a bigger lot, or if it's for the retention of our younger professionals to stay in our city and, you know, help drive the economy. So with that being said, I want to make a motion to approve the rural residential zone up to 2 dwelling units per acre.
I think
Okay, hang on one second. Let's, it's all right. We can, I think we have a motion and a second on the floor, but let's keep talking. And if that one, we may address it later. Okay, so Commissioner Higgins.
Yeah, I think affordability is a good point because for the average person, the most expensive cost in their life is typically your home. And then secondly is your vehicle, your form of transportation. It is not affordable to push housing to the furthest points of the county and make those who live there have to drive and invest significantly more in their transportation to be able to get there to or from work, to or from shopping, anything else. That's part of the reason why it's not a good long-term approach and why it's not sustainable to keep putting subdivisions out in the middle of nowhere is because we're forcing people to spend more hours driving and more hours or more dollars, more money on vehicle expenses, buying multiple vehicles, paying for the gas, the insurance. There's a lot of costs associated with that. So higher density and for the sake of more affordability makes a lot of sense in areas where it also comes with the right infrastructure and not just, you know, roads, sewers, but also shopping infrastructure, work, the fact that, you know, the short commutes, shorter routes to leisure and third spaces. So that's a good point. I think that the affordability is a very important aspect here. And no matter how cheap these are, it's still going to put a tremendous burden on anyone who lives there to have to spend all the money in transportation. So, yeah.
Thank you. Let's see, Commissioner Shelso.
Thank you. Yeah, so Commissioner Logan kind of stole one of my points that I was going to make about, and it isn't all that affordable because you put a strain on some of the roads and people's time. But another point I was going to make is, every property has a zoning, right? We look at them all day. When you buy a property, you know what it is zoned. You do not have a right to change your zone. You can apply, and this body hears it. This body is responsible for evaluating what our plans that we've adopted over the years, how those fit, potential rezonings fit within those plans. And, just because we get an application that someone wants to do something does not mean we have to meet them halfway necessarily or give it all to them or say that this is going to bring housing prices down by building something at the edge of the county. So, just kind of keep that in mind that we are supposed to evaluate our plans that we've adopted. And part of Advanced Knox, this area of the county is, they've spoken, and 3 units an acre of urban sprawl is not what they want. They've said that. So that's the point I wanted to make.
Commissioner Overton.
Respectfully, the commute we're talking about is not like an Atlanta 2-hour commute. And the difference in costs for maintaining your car and gas prices are nowhere near close to the cost of like $1 million home on an acre lot. And I think we're assuming that everybody that would buy in this neighborhood would want to work downtown, where my understanding, being a local Knoxvillian, is the Gibbs community is very tight-knit. That's not to say that nobody in Gibbs works downtown, but these people could work wherever they want to, and they should have the option as Knox County residents to buy a house where they want to. And I do think that, you know, more affordable homes in surrounding areas are just going to be necessary if we want to keep young Knoxvillians here. We're just not going to be able to keep plopping in neighborhoods in Farragut because there's just no more space. So, like I said, I support higher density here in the development.
Thank you. Commissioner Barger.
I just want to clarify what I meant by affordability for young professionals. I'm not saying that every young professional is going to be able to go out and buy a half-acre lot at the edge of town. But people who do want quiet communities are going to leave smaller neighborhoods to go and buy homes on a half-acre lot, which then creates an affordable option for young professionals to come in these higher density neighborhoods to purchase a home that has a shorter commute and lives closer to town and lives closer to their job. So, you know, I think that affordability is multifaceted. So just throw that out there.
Thank you. Commissioner Huber.
So, actually, speaking back to Commissioner Shelso's comment about the new growth policy plan and the land use plan that we've all been looking at that we'll be considering next month, it is not approved, as we had mentioned earlier. However, as you mentioned, they did speak. You know, the people in the rural areas did speak. And what they said was 2 units an acre. They said, we don't want 3. 2 units an acre works. So that's a big part of where, you know, with the rural stuff, in the plan now, it's supported in the plans we have now. It's also supported in the future plans at 2 units an acre. Again, with the affordability, I would like to ask, and I hope I'm not out of turn here, but I would like to ask, would the chair entertain a substitute motion?
No, I would not, but we can vote on this and then see where that goes. You know, the audience is watching. I'm sure some of the public are watching, and these are very difficult decisions that we have because we do have land use guidelines that has community input, and we should listen to the community, but it also has the ability for it to be flexible too. And that's kind of our job, is to also assess the needs of our community. So there's always that little pull and tug there about where we land, and we're absolutely doing the best we can. And this is good, robust discussion. And you know, some are going to say it's a right answer. Some's going to say, a right vote, a wrong vote. But these are just the very difficult times that we're in, and I respect everyone's opinion on this matter. And we still got a couple more lights before we vote on the one to see if it passes. All right, Commissioner Smith.
And I'm just sitting here listening, and I think what we've also got to be careful that we're not bringing a mindset that someone is going to buy a house and stay in it for the rest of their life. I think what you see when you look around our community, people will move based on stages of life and where they are. Right now, there is a very limited pool for an early stage of life and a very limited pool for the mid stage of life. This option, as we're talking about it, again, I'm staying with my 2 units an acre, half lot, is for one stage of life. And from our family, we lived in the inner city of Knoxville before we had kids, before we moved into the stage of life we're in now. We moved when that stage of life changed to ensure that they were closer to some of their friends. Some of the amenities that we would want for the kids were there. The schools that we wanted to be able to send them to were there. But that freed up the house we were in, which was smaller, more confined, for that affordability, not thinking through all of that, but it's just where we were in the stage of life. So I think we need to make sure that we've got a plethora of things in our community for every family at every stage of life and not zero in on our personal preferences of what we want to try and force the community to be, but leave options for people to choose what they want at the stage of life they're in at the moment they're in. So that's just what I want to end with. And that's why I go back to that 2 to an acre for me in that community, knowing what's up there. And I don't want people to take away that the Gibbs community is closed off or only blue collar. There's everything up there. I mean, I knew people who were millionaires that live in that community to people who struggled to provide for their family. There's everything there just as there is anywhere else. Let's just give people an option, because this might also be great jobs for people who are living in that community that work for this company. It might bring additional people to the community that will help bring additional jobs, new things that might come as a result of it. Our community is growing. I mean, you look around the state, I think Knoxville, the last report I saw, had grown significantly over the last decade. That's not slowing down. Just 6 years ago, when I served in the legislature, you know, the forecast from ECD was that the greater Knoxville metropolitan area over the next 30 years would grow by 250,000 people. That is a lot of growth coming to the greater Knoxville metropolitan area. Let's think smart and make sure we've got the right things for the different types of people who will come in at the different stages of life over these next 30 years.
Thank you. Commissioner Boyer.
Could staff pull up the subdivision right next door for me and tell me, do you know when that was approved and what that density is?
Yeah, it was approved in 2002, and the density that was approved was up to 3 dwelling units per acre.
And does that go across the street also?
I don't believe so.
So it in the other map, it appears to.
I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
So 2002 and up to 3?
Yes, that's correct.
And across the street is up to 4.
Okay. And okay, but that's just not been developed yet, but it's approved for that. Is that right?
That's what it says, yeah.
And do you know when that one was? Director Brooks?
I believe that was from 1996.
96. Okay. That's just what I was wondering.
I want to add that staff recommendation at that time was 1 dwelling unit per acre for the Marypen subdivision.
Thank you. That was it.
Commissioner Adams.
I had kind of wanted to ask what you did, Commissioner Boyer. So thank you for asking that. And I know it was approved for that amount, and the one beside it hasn't been built out, was approved for a 1 to 4. I don't know what the 1 to 3 was actually built out at. But just the impulse that I had, and I think that other commissioners had, to look at, well, what's right beside it, is the fear. Because if whatever we do with this particular parcel, that will become the next sort of measuring stick and the rationale for continuing that. So that's the sprawl, I think, that Commissioner Higgins was talking about, that I too would really not like to see happen.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote on the motion that's on the floor right now, and that is to
Chairman
approve.
Hill, may I address any of the comments?
Hang on, we got to finish this one off. To approve planned residential zone up to 1 dwelling unit per acre per staff recommendation. That's what we're voting on right now. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Let's call roll, Mr. DeArmond.
Commissioner Boyer,
No.
Commissioner Huber, Commissioner Shelso,
Yes.
Commissioner Perez, Commissioner Browning,
No.
Commissioner Higgins,
Yes.
Commissioner Levinson, Commissioner Biggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Barger, Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
No.
Commissioner Overton,
No.
Commissioner Hill.
No. Motion fails.
8 no, 5 yes.
8 no,
5
5 yes. Motion fails. What's that? Okay. Chair will entertain another motion or more discussion, or both.
I'd like to make a motion to approve planned residential up to 2 dwelling units per acre because it is consistent with the surrounding development and a minor extension of the zone.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Huber to approve planned residential up to 2 dwelling units per acre. Seconded by Commissioner Smith.
I don't know what I did, but I did it.
Mr. Sanderson, do you have a comment you'd like to make?
No, proceed with your motion.
Okay. Seeing no other lights, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Let's call the roll, Mr. DeArmond.
Commissioner Boyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Huber,
Yes.
Commissioner Scelso. No. Commissioner Perez. I'm sorry. Commissioner Browning,
Yes.
Commissioner Higgins,
No.
Commissioner Levinson.
Yes.
Commissioner Biggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Barger,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
No?
Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Overton,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill.
Yes. Motion passes.
10-3.
10-3.
Thank you all for your time and service.
Thank you.
Chairman Hill, I've got a procedural question.
Sure.
Given that my original motion, my first motion was for the sector plan at rural residential, and this might be a Tasha question, do we need to have another motion to go LDR that would support it, or is that all good?
No.
We're good? Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Right. And for the record, that's why I voted no to that one, because I thought perhaps we needed a different. Okay.
All right. All right, 39, is that where we are? 39, okay. Agenda item 39. Subdivision, Morning Ridge, applicant developer Turner Homes LLC. Location, northwest side of Ball Road, northeast of Bakertown Road. Approximate acreage, 20.05 acres. Zoning is planned residential up to 3 dwelling units per acre. Existing land use, agricultural, forestry, and vacant land. Proposed use, detached residential subdivision. Number of lots, 57. There will be variances required. And this will require five motions. So you might not want to be in a hurry to make a motion. Okay. Is the applicant present?
Yeah, Chris Gollier, Hardura, civil engineer for the owner, 2160 Lakeside Center Way.
All right, thank you. Any opposition? Any opposition? We do have opposition. Would you like to proceed or defer?
Yeah, we'll defer. We'll let them go.
Okay, all right. Ma'am, would you like to approach the podium and speak, sir?
Good afternoon. My name is Alvin Jackson. This is my.
She's sneaky.
This is my wife, Gwen Jackson. First of all, we do not object to the subdivision. I just want to make known our concerns. Okay. We have lived in the Ball Road community for 40 years at this current location. And we're both retired and we are enjoying our golden years, even during these pandemic times. What I would like to talk about, two things, just 2 points here. The area that adversely affects us. Number one, it was storm water. We had quite a bit of flooding in that area. And I'm thankful to Mr. Elliott. He took care of us the other day with our concern, but I'm still going to go through this particular concern, okay? And the second item is UAS flights. If you're familiar with that, drone flights, that is a current activity over our property, okay? So I'd like to talk about that as well. About 2 years ago, give you a little history here, my wife and I stood before this commission group to approve a concept plan for the very same property. The previous approval included a detention pond to be located to the lower southwest boundary adjacent to our farm. The detention pond's purpose was to control the runoff of stormwater containing fertilizer, pesticides, and other contaminants entering the Meadow Creek, whose main channel flows through a pond on our property. And all the drawings that you see submitted does not show the pond, which is right on the fence line. None of them ever showed it. And it was a major concern because we're downstream of it. 2 years later, that's today, for whatever reason, the issue with that proposed subdivision concept plan took us right back to square one. The new concept plan shows a detention pond at a different and new location, which is in the center of the said property. One would ask the question, why the location change of the detention pond? Perhaps it's because the road is now planned to be routed through the location. Why is the road being routed? Perhaps a variance request that would move the road entrance from a second time. The first variance request approved was an entrance reduction from 300 feet to 222 feet from the center line of Bakertown Road. That was the original variant request, and it was submitted by a different developer, which was 2 years ago. The second and current variant request called for an entrance reduction from 300 feet down to 150 feet. That's less than 50%. Moving a road 150 feet along the new route does cause for the relocation of the detention pond. I understand that. The second item I would like to talk about is UAS drones, that's unmanned aircraft awareness. As stated earlier, both of us are retired. We are living on a farm. We have 17 acres right next to this property being developed. We have honeybees and we have horse and it's fenced in. And because of our age, we use a drone to patrol our perimeter. I am an FAA certified drone operator, and I operate under FAA guidelines. What I don't want is when I come down the fence line, which only has a 25-foot setback, for the occupants of these homes to complain to me about me patrolling my own property line. Have been doing it for 2 years now, using a drone. So what I would like, if Turner Homes will work with us, is some type of barrier along the fence line to cut down on the sound and the visual, them actually seeing the drone when I do my property line surveys. I don't do it every day, but I do it periodically, and we hope to continue to do that. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to add?
Ms. Jackson, would you like to comment?
Anything?
Yeah, one.
Okay.
I've been a veterinarian in this in this community for over 40 years.
Could you pull the microphone closer to you so I could,
Oh,
so
I'm
we could hear you?
sorry.
That's
I'm
all right.
sorry. I've been a veterinarian, local veterinarian, in this community for over 40 years. And I am well aware of insecticides, pesticides, and what they can do to your pond and other things, and also how they affect bees. And so I would like, the consideration of the wastewater. I'm most concerned about that. But I appreciate your attention, and I think he's covered everything else. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess we'll just go off in order here. So the pond, so they're correct. This is a reissuing of a concept plan. The main lot layout stayed pretty consistent with the original. So what happened is the original road used to be up on the planned north property line. Well, that was going to result in about a 15-foot retaining wall right on that property line, which is not constructible. You'll end up you'll have to backfill to cut the wall in. Essentially, that planned north property owner, his property is very negatively impacted. Just wasn't feasible. So what we did is we shift that road down, kind of flared the road out, put that turnaround for the mail kiosk, which necessitated moving the pond to the northern side of the road. If you can go to the grading plan, you'll see that none of the water that was all the water that was going to the original ponds are getting rerouted into that new pond. So the drainage pattern is not going to change. We'll meet all the Knox County requirements to, hit the detention requirements. We'll study, there'll be a bridge crossing Meadow Creek. We'll study all that, get the appropriate permits. We'll look at the downstream impacts. So that'll all be handled in permitting. We've done it, just not applied for it yet. So we know it'll work. It's just a matter of now getting through county engineering with that. But there is a swell in the back of those lots that address their property. So all the stormwater behind the lots will go into a storm system, collected, get piped to the pond. That'll detain the water. That should alleviate any impacts from our development on that. As far as the drones go, I'm not going to be able to control who buys the houses, but we are calling out pretty sure it's an 8-foot privacy fence on both sides of the property. So they will have a physical property barrier. That was negotiated in the first concept plan, so we left that on there, and we extended it a little bit for the pool amenity area. In regards to her concern about sewer and wastewater, there's public sewer out there. It'll go to West Knox's treatment plant, so it'll go into a gravity sewer system. Well, actually, I take that. It'll probably be a low-pressure sewer system, but it'll get to the gravity system to their wastewater treatment plant. So the main thing was the pond moving. It moved the other side of the street, but it's still collecting the same amount of water from the original concept. It'll collect all the subdivision water. It'll act like a normal detention pond. I can answer any questions you guys have. Otherwise, we'd appreciate recommendation per staff approval. Approval per staff recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is more just, I guess, a question for engineering. If we could go back, not to that one, go back to the current, where the current detention pond is in the case file. Keep going up. No, the one that shows the satellite view. Yep. So what I'm seeing here, and this is just where I'm curious, it looks like that detention pond is about a third on these property owners' lot.
No, that's our pond on our property. It's not the detention.
No. But what they're saying is they're going to move that part of that pond is going to go under the new one.
Different pond altogether, different drawing.
Different. Okay, sorry, I was on the wrong lot. So that's why I was confused. So now y'all have answered my question. So that's all I need.
All right, Commissioner Higgins.
I have two questions for the applicant, maybe engineering. I'm curious, this is just a technical thing I'm seeing on here. With the mail turnaround area there. Seems like it would make more sense for it to be on the opposite side of the road where people are coming in, be able to check their mail on their way home. Was there a reason?
Yeah, it's a grading constraint. So there's a creek that runs through there, and the slopes on that other side of the street, to get the detention pond in, we couldn't stick it out that direction. So with the geometry of the road, it necessitated to be on that side.
Are people going to be able to, or I guess whether they're supposed to or not, is there
Do a
any
turnaround.
concern of people pulling in there on the wrong side of the road and traffic conflicts with that?
It'll be difficult to do that with the boulevard. But the potential of them doing a turnaround while in it is exhibit. But I don't anticipate them. I never say never. We know how this goes, but it'll be more difficult with that boulevard going all the way to the extent there for them to do that.
And then the stub out in the back, is that for, this may have been covered and I missed it, is that for a phase 2?
I'm sorry, say what?
The stub out in the back?
No, it's just for those lots. That's just a hammerhead turnaround.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So no, I think we're at the max density. We're close to the max density. So there's no phase 2 planned on this one.
Okay. Thanks.
Commissioner Adams.
Could I ask the opposition, I'm sorry, I did not get your last name. A question. Jackson, thank you. A question, because as we were talking about the ponds, I saw you all raise your hand, and I just wanted to make sure, please come up so I can, if your questions were answered, or if as we were talking about the ponds, another one propped up.
Yeah. The pond, the fence and the height.
Oh, one thing about the fencing along the property line. They're proposing an 8-foot fence, but the ground would be raised higher, and what value would that have on privacy?
So they've got a fence that's 8 foot, but the ground is much higher. So the house is going to be set way above, and our field is down here. So there's no privacy because you can sit there and look out over onto our property. And what we were asking, if perhaps we could have some type of, it's not shrub, landscaping buffer in order that we would be able to have some type of privacy along that area.
Okay.
That's what we were getting at.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I'm tracking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll turn back to the staff and commission if that's possible for us to modify this to require a buffer that's adequate to address that height difference.
Okay. Director Brooks is reviewing to see if they're.
I hear the cogs
what the
turning.
required
Yes.
buffer. Let's see.
Yes, commission could add an additional condition. I was just reviewing the conditions. Ms. Warner, there's not any other condition associated with buffers, correct, out of these 8?
No, just the fence.
Yeah.
Could I have some assistance from planning about how to articulate a variance that would accommodate the height issue that the opposition was concerned about?
I think typically like a type B landscape screening is a typical buffer.
Could you hear that?
I think she said a type B landscaping buffer.
I think that would, and so I am, honestly, in terms of the topography of the site, that's one thing I was just considering as I paused. But yeah, so a type B is one that could be considered in terms of the evergreen.
Okay.
Which I think is what would address some of their concerns.
Okay. Go ahead.
Commissioner Adams,
I'm trying to make a motion, but I think Commissioner Huber had a question, so.
okay, Commissioner Huber.
So, I mean, with this, and this might be to the neighbors as well, Mr. Jackson, Ms. Jackson, I mean, would you rather have a landscape buffer or a fence?
I would rather because I have horses, I would like to have the fence and the landscape buffer.
Okay.
Because the landscape buffer would allow more than likely the less sound with the drone. But the fence would help because I have animals there, and I would like that to be there as well.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay.
I guess if I could throw that same question to the applicant, if that's something they're comfortable with.
I don't know. I got one question for you. How are the animals contained now if there's no fence?
I have a horse. Right now, I have a horse.
But-
I have a,
Yeah, I get that, but does the horse just,
I have it contained by a it's in a fence, barbed wire fence.
okay.
But when you
If you'll approach the podium, Ms. Jackson,
I'm sorry.
I'm a little-
I apologize.
So how
But when
does-
you have a community where you have a lot of people on that side, there's more of a temptation to come over on your property to pet and give carrots to the horse.
Got it.
That's what I'm trying to prevent,
I understand.
not to mention a lot of digestive upsets because of the problem too. But anyway, that's the reason for that.
Thank you. All right, where do we leave off?
Well, I have a question because I'm now remembering this is the one with lots of motions.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's exactly, well, I've got a drone question, and then I have a question about to which of these motions it would be most appropriate for me to add this landscape buffer and fence variance.
To add an additional condition, it would be motion 5, which is the concept plan. So approve the concept plan subject to 8 conditions. So it would be a ninth
The ninth
condition.
condition,
Yes.
okay. And we are currently, we need to go through the variances first before we go through the concept plan. So then I'll shift gears for just a moment to ask about the drone, because I have seen them, have experienced them, but don't know, I know about the FAA component, but I don't know about any other rules or guidelines when we get into subdivisions and stuff. So
I'm sure engineering's experts in drones and apiaries.
I believe drones would be solely regulated by the FAA, not us.
Okay.
So if flash forwards, this subdivision is built, neighbor X starts complaining, that's really the guise of the FAA, and as long as the operator is doing what he's supposed to do?
Yes, I would believe that'd be correct. As long as he's operating in a safe manner within the regulations of the FFA, then, they would be the regulatory authority there.
I can speak a little bit to that, ironically enough. I am also an FAA certified drone
Sure.
pilot. And it really is based on what fly zone you're in. So you've got to maintain certain regulations on how high it's going, if you're in the direct path of different airports and things of that nature. But otherwise, unless there's something specific to Tennessee that I don't know, those are really kind of the guiding directions. But they can be a little bit noisy, and they can create a little concern for people who are unaware of what's going on. But it is within the FAA guidelines.
All right. Good. Commissioner Huber.
I guess I wanted to we never got to hear from the applicant on the Class B buffer that's been suggested.
Yeah, so my name's Coleman Sullivan. I'm with Turner Homes. Bear with me, I'm a little new to this, so I'll try to answer the best that I can. We're pretty familiar with the landscape buffers. We're a lot of times we'll go forward with a commercial buffer if we think it's best suited for the property, if we have the space. Here it's a little tighter. The elevation works against us a little bit. I think we're open to any consideration at this point, but cost certainly weighs in on that as well on our end. The fence is typically a good option, good solution, and I think moving forward with anything with planning, a lot of that depends on the size of the plantings that are recommended. That dictates a lot of the cost, and it may be years from now that it actually serves its purpose for the neighbors. There may be an alternative. I'm not sure what that is, but just something to consider.
Commissioner Smith.
Oh, sorry.
Commissioner Huber, were you done, or are you going to make some 5 motions for us?
I'd like to make a motion.
Go right ahead.
So you guys just bear with me.
We
This
will.
is a new one. I'd like to make a motion per staff recommendation to approve the requested variance to reduce the minimum intersection separation between Road A and Bakertown Road from 300 feet to 150 feet based on the following hardship. They go on to explain a lot of different things in there. I've driven the road. I'm familiar with Bakertown Road and Ball Road in that area. It is best. This is the best place to line up the intersection. Comfortable with that. So do we need a second on that?
So just to make sure, I just want to clear with our wise counsel over here that we've covered everything that we should. Counselor, if you would weigh in on that.
Yeah, as long as you've stated the rationale, sorry.
Did we state the rationale?
Yeah, he
Okay.
has stated an appropriate rationale to support that motion. That I think that's sufficient.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Huber, seconded by Commissioner Barger, to approve the requested variance per staff recommendation as he had described. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the requested variance to reduce the vertical curve K value from 25 to 15, Road A at VPI, Station 0 plus 38.48, based on the following evidence of the hardship. And again, they go on to list 4 different things. It's mainly topography. This one and the next one are going to be mainly topography. You've got Beaver Ridge in the back that runs all the way across the back of that property, and I'm happy to see that they're stubbing that road with a turnaround to not and get into Beaver Ridge. So these variances allow the road to be at a certain elevation when you're going up the hill to be safe. So I'm in favor of that variance.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Huber, seconded by Commissioner Scelso to approve the requested variance to reduce the vertical curve K value as described. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I can make a motion to approve the requested variance to reduce the vertical curve K value from 25 to 20, Road A at VPI Station 1 plus 5140, based on the following evidence of hardship. Again, as I just stated, it's a somewhat steep piece of property, and these variances need to be added for safety.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the requested variance to reduce the curve K value from 25 to 20, A at VPI STA as further described by Commissioner Huber, seconded by Commissioner Scelso. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the alternative design standards based on the justifications provided by the applicant and the recommendations of Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works.
Second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Huber, seconded by Commissioner Scelso to approve the alternative design standards based on justifications provided by the applicant and the recommendations of Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the concept plan subject to 9 conditions. Currently, there's 8. I think we need to go ahead and add 9 as a Class B buffer on the, what would that be considered, the western side?
We've got Director Brooks would like to add or give comment to that.
Yeah, if I could just add, if you all if you would like to add that condition, that of the continuous landscape screen type B, that the applicant would submit the landscape plan to planning staff for review.
Okay, so I will amend that to say I make a motion to approve the concept plan subject to 9 conditions, which the 9th condition will be the addition of a Class B buffer on the left side if it's the west side of the property, and that they would need to turn in a landscape plan to staff
for review.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Huber, seconded by Commissioner Adams to approve the concept plan subject to 9 conditions as he described. And we have Commissioner Smith that would like to comment.
Well, not a comment, just one quick question, and I apologize, my brain's starting to wear out. With this development, is there a homeowners association associated with this? And if not, who will maintain the fence long-term?
I think that's probably a question over there, but I mean, my understanding is most PR, things like this generally require
it's a private
HOA.
road, right?
It's conditioned.
Okay, thank you. We were
Number
looking and
6.
just couldn't find it, so just wanted to verify that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner Huber.
Yeah.
All right.
Double this paper.
Guess what? We've got, the next one has 7 motions. Agenda item 40. Subdivision South Creek Development, applicant developer is Paragon Development LP. Location, west terminus of Sweetwater Lane, southwest of Coldstream Lane. Zoning, or approximate acreage is 20.66. Zoning is planned residential up to 4 dwelling units per acre. Existing land use, agriculture, forestry, and vacant land. Proposed use, attached residential subdivision. Number of lots, 91, and this will require variances and alternative design standards. Again, I will note that we will be looking at 7 potential motions. All right, is the applicant present? Present. Counselor Forrester, do we have any opposition? Seeing no opposition, please proceed.
Taylor Forrester, 1111 North Shore Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919. Here on behalf of the property owner, developer, Paragon Development. We're here for concept plan approval and development plan approval of 91 attached dwelling units. The concept plan approval, we're asking for the 4 variance requests. The basis for the variance request, as you're aware, we've established a hardship, and that's going to be the topography and the rock formations on the property. So you'll notice on the concept plan and development plan, the lots are shifted to the south end, south boundary line of the property. That's because of the hillside that's there to the north. As a result of the hillside and the shallow rock outcroppings, moving the lots to the south results in the need for the variances. And these variances, they deal with our access road, which will be a private right-of-way. And Chris here is the engineer on the project, and he can explain more, because when I read those, it doesn't make much sense at all to me about K values and things. So, but it's basically curves in the right-of-way that we're asking relief of the required minimum curve in the subdivision regulations, as well as we're a variance request to go away from the
traditional circular cul-de-sac to a square cul-de-sac. Again, the cause of this and the hardship is a result of the significant hillside and rock outcroppings and our desire to stay out of that area as much as possible and minimize any and all disturbance there. Believe that this does meet the grounds for the development, for the variance set forth in the subdivision regulations based on the unique shapes, slope, and topographical conditions at the property. These requested variances are not based exclusively on a desire for financial gain, but as a result of the property's physical attributes. These variances will not result in any kind of detriment to the public safety, health, or welfare, or be injurious to the other surrounding properties. Similarly, the alternative design standards reduction to a minimum to the minimum requirement of a curve area in the private right-of-way, and we're asking to reduce the private right-of-way from 50 feet to 40 feet in width. Development plan, this property is zoned for planned residential up to 4 dwelling units per acre. Our density is a little bit less than that for the project. I believe that the resulting density is 3.89 dwelling units per acre. Demands in the area for this type of housing, these will be, as I said, attached dwelling units, 2-story, be a mix of 3 and 4 bedrooms with garage. We have additional parking in the neighborhood that will reduce the, potential of on-street parking. There will be covenants, restrictions, and HOA set up to deal with preventing the on-street parking, as well as setting up the necessary funding for the maintenance of the private right-of-way. Ask that you follow staff's recommendation, find the grounds that the variance, that grounds for the variance request exist, approve the alternative design plans and the development plan for the development of 91 attached dwelling units. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Barger.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the requested variance to reduce the minimum vertical curve K value from 25 to 20 on Sweetwater Way at VPI Station 7 plus 9.58, A through D due to topography.
Second.
All right. Thanks for your assertiveness,
You got
Commissioner
it.
Barger.
And I can actually comment on that too, not trying to steal your thunder.
You can steal it.
Because I'm uniquely very familiar with this property. I actually owned it in 2004. And I walked it. It is very steep. It's got a lot of shallow rock on it. So I was going to make a motion and detail all of the variances. Thank you for taking that on. But just for the record, I just want to state that I've read through them. I've been there. This is a needed type of housing in the area. I understand all of them, even the square cul-de-sac where they're trying to pick up a few extra parking spots, things like that to keep people from parking on the street. But there's going to be a lot of technical information in here. But I can assure you from walking in and owning the property, it is challenged.
Thank you, Commissioner Huber. So we have a motion by Commissioner Barger, seconded by who?
Boyer.
Tamara Boyer.
Commissioner Boyer. I'm sorry, Ms. Boyer.
It's okay.
I heard, but then I forgot. So, okay, let's see here. I'm headed. I think I'm on it. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve, oh crud, which one are we on? Second one. To approve the requested variance to reduce the minimum broken back curve tangent from 150 to 85 feet on Sweetwater Way at Station 5 plus 61.66 due to topography.
And we have a motion by Commissioner Barger, seconded by Commissioner Boyer to approve the requested variances to reduce the minimum broke back curve tangent from 150 feet to 85 feet on Sweetwater Way as she further described. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the requested variance to allow a square cul-de-sac in place of a traditional cul-de-sac at the end of Sweetwater Way and Crystal Waterway due to topography constraints.
We have a motion by Commissioner Barger, seconded by Commissioner Boyer, to approve the requested variance to allow a square cul-de-sac in place of traditional cul-de-sac at the end of Sweetwater Way and Crystal Clear Way. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the requested variance to reduce cul-de-sac transition radii from 75 feet to 25 feet on Sweetwater Way and Crystal Clear Way due to topography constraints.
We have a motion by Commissioner Barger, seconded by Commissioner Boyer, to approve the requested variance to reduce the cul-de-sac transition radii from 75 feet to 25 feet on Sweetwater Way and Crystal Clear Way. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
To make a motion to approve the alternative design standards based on the justification provided by the applicant and the recommendation of Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works.
We have a motion by Commissioner Barger, seconded by Commissioner Boyer, to approve the alternative design standards as she further described. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the concept plans subject to the 7 listed conditions.
We have a motion by Commissioner Barger, seconded by Commissioner Boyer, to approve concept plan subject to 7 conditions. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the development plan for up to 91 attached houses on individual lots, subject to the 3 conditions listed.
A motion to approve development plan for up to 91 attached houses on individual lots, subject to the noted 3 conditions. That was made by Commissioner Barger, seconded by Commissioner Boyer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to take a nap now.
You got it. We'll hold on that vote right now. All right. On to agenda item 41. Subdivision Twin Oak Landing, applicant developer, highway markings, Paul G. Hibben. Locations west side of Tazewell Pike, south side of Twin Oak Lane. Approximate acreage, 33.96 acres. Zoning is planned residential up to 4 dwelling units per acre. Existing land use, agriculture, forestry, vacant land. Proposed use, detached residential subdivision. Number of lots, 111. There will be subdivision variances required and alternative design standards. This will require a total of 4 motions. Is the applicant present? If you'll state your name and address, please. Do we have any opposition?
Garrett Tucker with Robert Campbell Associates, 7523 Taggart Lane, Knoxville, on behalf of the applicant.
All right, Mr. Tucker, I don't see or hear of any opposition. Please proceed.
Okay, I'll be brief. This is, of course, this is the 3rd time this subdivision we've come for concept plan approval, and I believe we've got a better plan this time. As you can see, there's some odd shapes to it, and we've got a stream going through it. So we did minimize the number of requests for variances and alternate design standards. The traffic study has been updated, and we would just request approval per the staff recommendations.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams.
Could I have help from either the applicant and/or staff? I just want a quick review of some of the pedestrian infrastructure items on the plan. Can you hear me okay? Could you, it may require staff to be able to point at the document, but I just.
Gibbs School is to the south. And we have that hatched area will be a detention pond, but then to the left, to the west of the detention pond is there's a trail. We've got a 12-foot wide asphalt trail there that will come up and connect to the school. And along the way, we're showing a common area with a pavilion, maybe a playground and some stuff to enhance that. And then the sidewalks throughout the subdivision going around these roads, and then we have a connection over to Edwards Place that was part of the previous concept plan approvals. There would be a connection there. We're stubbing a sidewalk over to that subdivision as well, so that there could be some pedestrian traffic to the school.
Great. This is for my own edification. I was reading the plan and just wanted you to point out some of those things. So on the first item that you mentioned to the elementary school,
Yes,
that's the Greenway Trail to the elementary school, correct?
it is, yeah. It will be a greenway trail. Then there also is another greenway easement that we're going to dedicate along Beaver Creek Drive for future use by the county if they ever choose to construct a greenway trail along Beaver Creek. And we will try to go, in our grading plan, we'd like to go ahead and grade out an area to where that would be grade ready. And it would help the access to the creek for enjoyment along Beaver Creek for recreation. So,
Excellent. Thank you very much.
thank you.
I can, I'll try. I feel the support here. I will try to make these motions here. Starting with a motion to approve the requested variance to reduce the minimum intersection spacing along Twin Oak Lane between the center lines of Road V and Road W from 125 feet to 81.96 feet based on the following evidence of hardship as outlined item A through D.
We have a motion by Commissioner Adams, seconded by Commissioner Shelso. We'll call that motion 1, variance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the alternative design standards based on the recommendation of the Knox County Department of Engineering and Public Works.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Adams, seconded by Commissioner Shelso to approve motion number 2. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I'd like to make a motion to approve the concept plan subject to 11 conditions as outlined below.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Adams, seconded by Commissioner Shelso on the motion 3 concept plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I would like to make a motion to approve the development plan for up to 111 detached houses on individual lots and a reduction of the periphery boundary setback from 35 feet to 20 feet for lots 1, 15, 16, 28, and 29, and to 25 feet for the remainder of the development as shown, subject to 1 condition.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Adams, seconded by Commissioner Shelso to approve motion number 4. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm sorry, I didn't see some lights. Do you want to comment, Commissioner Smith?
Not really a comment on that. I was just going to make a motion that we put anything with more than 2 motions before the 3 o'clock hour when all of our brains aren't fried.
Well, okay. Commissioner Huber?
Just another comment again, because I was when I went out and toured the lovely Coreyton Gibbs community earlier today. I did have a chance to ride by this, and specifically with respect to that variance request. Twin Oak Lane is a very small road. There's only like 3 houses on it. It's not a private, or it is a private road. It's not a public road. So I don't see any issue with reducing that minimum intersection separation for that. Just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you all for hanging in there today. It's been a long day.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.